I have a system that helps me survive in a zombie apocalypse. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 Doomsday. Courier. Basic salary 3,000. No education required. Real estate sales. Basic salary 4,000. College degree or above required. The mouse slid down, and the screen slid down with it, and recruitment information came into view. Suddenly, the mouse stopped moving, and a man in front of the computer leaned back, his hands on his head, and murmured, "Li Wending, Li Wending, good jobs are hard to find. I should have known not to quit before, at least I could still eat and wait for death." Just then, a roar came from outside the window, directly covering up his words. He shook his head helplessly and looked at the high-speed train outside the window. "It's so noisy, can't it be quiet for a while?" As soon as he finished speaking, the high-speed train suddenly braked, rubbing against the track and making a harsh squeaking sound, and finally stopped abruptly. He couldn't help but widen his eyes. Is his mouth blessed? He has lived here for so long, but he has never seen such a thing. Usually high-speed trains come and go in a hurry. After all, there is no high-speed rail station here. Moreover, this high-speed train doesn't seem to have any problems. Why did it suddenly brake? However, even if the high-speed rail had an accident, it was none of his business. He only knew that, if he couldn't find a job, he would starve to death. He shook his head and looked at the computer screen again, ready to continue looking for a job. Suddenly, a window popped up in the lower left corner of the computer, saying breaking news, a new influenza virus has mutated. Please pay attention. He knew this so-called influenza virus. Perhaps it was because colds were more common in spring, so a large number of people with colds appeared all over the world. After experts tested it, it was found to be a new influenza virus. However, after the infection, the patient only showed common cold symptoms, so it did not attract too much attention, and everyone continued to live as usual. However, with so many infections, it would be abnormal if there was no mutation. He sighed. These marketing accounts are attracting more and more attention. He moved the mouse, ready to turn off this thing that was obviously sent by a marketing account, but he clicked on it for some reason and opened the link. Soon, a small window opened, and it was actually a video. A female reporter stood in the studio with a microphone in her hand, looking nervous. She first glanced to both sides, then looked at the camera, and then said, "Hello everyone, I'm reporter Zhang Xiaoyan, and I will report the latest news to you. The new influenza virus that appeared recently suddenly mutated on a large scale 10 minutes ago. The infected people will lose their minds and attack living people, similar to the zombies commonly seen in our movies. Therefore, if there is nothing special, please do not go out and wear a mask to prevent infection. The country has taken emergency response measures, and our TV station will make further reports later." At this moment, the screen suddenly shook twice, and a cough was heard at the same time. It seemed that it was the sound made by the photographer. The female reporter looked behind the camera in horror, as if she had seen something terrible. Then, the camera fell directly to the ground, and only the female reporter's high heels appeared in the picture. A sharp arc came from the camera, and soon the shoes left the camera. The next second, a black shadow flashed through the camera. Not long after, blood slowly flowed out from where the shoes left. He stared at the computer screen quietly for several seconds, before coming back to his senses. He couldn't help but exclaim, "Marketing accounts nowadays are so thoughtful that they even shoot short videos. The female reporter's acting skills are even better. It's almost like the truth. However, I remember that if you spread rumors, you will be detained." At this time, his phone suddenly rang. He picked it up and saw that it was his mother calling. He pressed the answer button. "Mom, this is Wending. What's wrong?" His mother's nervous voice came from the phone. "Son, have you watched the news? I heard that the virus has mutated, and those who have caught a cold have become so scary." He smiled. "Mom, don't watch the videos of those marketing accounts. They are all fake." His mother said nervously, "What's fake? It's all real." I just saw that your second uncle has become the same as what was said in the news, chasing people and biting them. So I hurried to call you. Are you outside or in the dormitory now? Anyway, no matter where you are, find a safe place to hide first." His laughter stopped abruptly. Could it be that the video just now was real? He didn't bother to think too much and asked directly, "I'm in the rental house now. Where are you and Dad? Are you at home?" His mother replied, "Yes, I closed the door as soon as I saw the news. The village is in a mess now. I seem to have heard screams." He said in a hurried tone, "Yes, close the door. It's better to prop it up with something and close the windows. By the way, is there enough food at home?" His mother thought for a while before saying, "Yes, the millet at home is enough for me and your dad to eat for a year. By the way, how is your side? Don't go out, just wait for the country to rescue." He looked at the rice bucket on the ground and replied, "I still have a lot of rice here, enough to support for a while. I will definitely not go out." His mother replied, "That's good. Pay attention to safety." He nodded, "Yes, I will. You should pay attention too." Then he hung up the phone. At this time, there was a loud bang outside. He looked down from the window and found that there was a car accident. On the street, the few pedestrians were running for their lives, shouting as they walked. Behind them, some people were chasing them slowly. Their eyes were red, their mouths were open, and sticky saliva kept flowing out. These people should be zombies, but they seemed okay, moving so slowly. Ordinary people can at least hide, not without any resistance. He thought of the high-speed rail again. So, the high-speed rail just stopped because of the appearance of zombies? However, the high-speed rail is a closed space, and even if those people want to escape, they can't. He looked at the high-speed rail and found that some windows actually had a touch of blood. Obviously, someone had been killed by zombies. At this time, the air defense alarm sounded over the city. He sat back in his chair in a daze. This time it was over. There were actually zombies. Judging from the scale of the cold before, it is estimated that many people will become zombies. If it is not handled properly, the end of the world is expected to come. And as an ordinary person like him, can he really survive in such a doomsday? And how should his parents who are far away in his hometown survive? At this moment, he suddenly heard a mechanical sound. Ding, the zombie assistance system is loading. Chapter 2, The Pitfalls of a System. Li Wending touched his chin and muttered, "Zombie auxiliary system?" As a novel lover, he was naturally familiar with this so-called system. In addition, now that zombies have appeared and the end of the world is coming, what about a small system? Therefore, he quickly accepted the existence of the system. Generally speaking, the system is used to help the protagonist cheat, but I don't know what function his system has. Moreover, the name also contains the word auxiliary, so it should be a buff type system. For example, give him an acceleration or something, so that he can run all the way back to his hometown. However, there are two words zombie in front of the word auxiliary, which makes him a little unpredictable. Could this system be a buff for zombies? If that's the case, what's the point of him coming here? He didn't think about it anymore. When the system is installed, he will know what the situation is. So, while waiting for the system to load, he started to prepare for survival. He first took out all the containers that could be used at home and filled them with water. Water is the source of life. People can survive for 7 days without food, but if they don't have water to drink, they will reach their limit in 3 days. Then, he fully charged his phone and computer. Although the water and electricity have not been cut off yet, it is always good to prepare early. At the same time, he also downloaded a map and browsed some knowledge about doomsday survival on the internet. However, there are too many and too complicated things on the internet, and he did not find much useful. There are also various reports about zombies on the internet, and the official reminds everyone to close the doors and windows and wait for official rescue. He did not comment on this statement, but he did not know when the official would be able to rescue him. After all, according to the report, this zombie incident is not just a local one, but a national and even global one. So, he browsed around for a while and stopped reading after understanding it. However, what surprised him was that time had passed. Why hadn't the system been installed yet? He thought about it and asked, "System, is it there?" No one answered. He even suspected that the voice just now was just hallucination, and in fact, the system and everything were just his own ideas. After a while, he changed the way he asked, "Is the system installed?" Still no one answered. Now, he really doubted his life. It seems that the excitement of the zombies coming was too great, so he fantasized about the system coming to save him. However, he still didn't give up, and asked for the last time, "System, how much is the loading progress?" This time, the mechanical voice finally sounded again. "The system loading progress is 1%. He was happy. It seemed that the system really existed. However, his joy soon dimmed again. What kind of system is this? It took so long to load to 1%. By the time the loading is completed, he will probably be dead. Fortunately, he has always cooked for himself, and there is rice in the rental house. As long as the water and electricity are not cut off, he should be able to support it until the system is loaded." At this time, a scream came from downstairs, which lasted for a long time before stopping. He covered his ears directly, unable to bear to listen anymore. The building he lived in was the kind that was specially used for renting. He lived on the 8th floor, which was also the highest floor. And each floor has 10 rooms. Even if it is not full, it is almost full. Fortunately, today is a weekday. Otherwise, there is no telling how many zombies will appear in this building. By then, his chance of survival will be greatly reduced. As he was thinking, there was a sound of a door opening next door, followed by a crisp female voice saying, "Who is it? Yelling so early in the morning?" The next second, the female voice said "Ah," and then slammed the door shut. After a while, a hurried sound of running came over, stopped next door, and then bang 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 knocked on the door. He remembered that there was a stewardess living next door, but he didn't know her, just met her once. And the one knocking on the door, no need to ask, must be a zombie. I just don't know who that zombie is. However, judging from the current situation, the stewardess is probably in danger. It's a pity that the stewardess has such a good figure. He now only hopes that the zombie can leave after killing the stewardess. He has nothing now, and he doesn't want to face those zombies directly. If he is killed without even using that crappy system, then he must be the most frustrated protagonist. However, the zombie knocked on the door for a while, but it seemed that there was no way to open the door. It stopped and walked towards his house instead. He woke up suddenly and quickly pushed all the movable objects behind the door, holding the door tightly. Then, there was a violent knock on his door, and the door was visibly shaking. If he hadn't used something to hold it, the zombie might have rushed in. After the zombie knocked for a while, he saw that it couldn't be pushed open, so he ran to the stewardess's door and knocked. In the next few days, the zombie seemed to have identified the two of them, knocking on their doors in turn, and refused to leave. Only at night would the zombie stop for a while. After so many days of torture, he was almost accustomed to the knock on the door, and his nerves became numb. If he didn't hear the knock on the door, he would feel uncomfortable. On this day, he heard a ding. He stood up from his chair suddenly and looked nervously towards the door. He thought it was a zombie that opened the door, but he quickly realized that the sound was from the system. Sure enough, the next second, a familiar mechanical voice sounded. "The zombie auxiliary system has been loaded." He rubbed his hands excitedly. Here it comes. After waiting for so many days, the system finally came. From this moment on, he will officially start his life as a protagonist and reach the peak of his life. He asked directly, "System, what functions do you have?" The mechanical voice answered directly, "The host has not completed the novice task, and the function introduction is not open." He was stunned for a moment, and then asked again, "System, is there a novice gift package or something?" The mechanical voice answered, "Please complete the novice task, and get the novice gift package." He had no choice but to ask, "What is a novice task?" The mechanical voice stopped for a while before it sounded, "The novice task is now released. Please complete a zombie kill." He was stunned. What a broken system. It doesn't give anything, and asks him to kill zombies. If he could kill them, wouldn't he have done it long ago? He asked, "System, if you don't give me some gift packs or equipment, how can I kill it?" The mechanical voice repeated the previous words. He immediately gave up. Chapter 3 Preparation. He never expected that, after waiting for several days, he would get such a broken system. He estimated that, if he continued to talk to the system, it would become a meme that was circulated on the internet before. System, I want an office gift pack to kill zombies. System, complete the task of killing zombies and get an office gift pack. I'm unarmed. How can I kill zombies? You should give me an office gift pack and some equipment. System, if you kill zombies, won't you get an office gift pack? He sighed and stopped wasting his energy. As for this system, he would just pretend that it had never happened. However, the zombies outside the door still had to be dealt with. After all, he couldn't get any supplies now. If this continued, the remaining rice would be eaten up. At that time, it would really be a dead end. So, he had to kill the zombies outside the door while he still had the strength and then find another way out. After so many days, he no longer had any hope for the country's rescue. Because in the past few days, the signal disappeared completely, then the power was cut off, and finally the water was cut off. So, although he didn't know what the situation outside was like now, but he knew that, if he continued to stay here, he would really be waiting for death. He looked at the sky. It should be afternoon now. Although he didn't know the exact time, it was a little dark, and it would probably be night soon. At night, the zombies would be motionless, as if they were asleep. At that time, it would be his chance. This was the conclusion he came to after observing the zombies downstairs for so many days. He was not idle for so many days, and did a lot of experiments on the zombies downstairs. After the chaos caused by the zombie outbreak on the first day, the living people hid. After losing their target, the zombies began to wander the streets. Fortunately, the place where he lived was adjacent to the industrial area, and because it was demolished last year, many tenants nearby moved away, resulting in not many people in this place. Therefore, there were not many zombies. Even if there were, they were locked up in the factory. Those zombies wandered the streets during the day and were motionless at night. But there is one exception, that is sound. They are extremely sensitive to sound. Whether it is day or night, as long as they hear any sound, they will immediately notice it and attack. The most important thing is that they can hear even the slightest sound. He once did an experiment and threw a ball of cotton from upstairs. As a result, when the ball of cotton fell lightly to the ground, it still triggered the attack of several zombies. Later, he tried to throw two objects of different weights at the same time, but found that the order of zombies attacks was in order. They would attack the first one to land first, but soon they would turn to attack the second one to land, and ignore the first one. If you want to kill the zombies outside the door, you must cooperate with the ones next door. However, so many days have passed, and he doesn't know if the stewardess next door has starved to death. So he knocked on the wall. As a result, not only did this not attract a response from the stewardess, but it attracted the zombies, who knocked on his door bang bang. He simply went all out and shouted, "Stewardess next door, are you still alive? If you are, please make a sound." After a while, the stewardess's weak voice finally rang out, "Yes, what's the matter?" Hearing the stewardess's voice, the zombies ran to the next door and knocked on the door again. He was now completely sure that the zombies would follow the sound to attack, so he shouted directly, "I have a plan to kill the zombies outside, but I need your cooperation." The zombies ran back again. The stewardess's anxious voice sounded, How can I cooperate?" He said directly, "Next, you just need to keep making noises in the house. You don't have to do anything." The stewardess asked again, "But, as soon as I speak, she keeps knocking on my door. I'm so scared." He sighed, "So do you want to continue like this, and then starve to death, or give it a try?" After a while, the stewardess said, "Well, okay, but let me make it clear first, I won't open the door no matter what." He nodded. "You don't have to open the door, just make some noise, the louder the better." While the two of them were chatting, the zombie kept changing targets. After Li Wending finished speaking, the stewardess did not answer, and the zombie did not knock on the door, and there was a moment of silence. Just when he thought that the stewardess was silently refusing, there was a sudden sound of knocking on a basin next door, which soon attracted the zombie. For a while, the sound of knocking on the basin and the sound of knocking on the door mixed together, forming an ensemble. At the same time, the zombies downstairs also looked up, making a series of ho-ho sounds. Taking advantage of this gap, he began to carefully move the debris behind the door. After all, he had no means to kill zombies through the door, so if he wanted to kill the zombie, he must open the door. He had just lifted the table, but accidentally rubbed it against the ground and made a squeak. For a moment, he even stopped breathing and pricked up his ears to listen to the movement behind the door. After discovering that the zombie was still attracted by the sound next door and did not come over, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that the zombies will be attracted by louder noises. Then, he continued to move, but after that he became more careful and did not make any noise. After moving, he directly used his body to hold the door and then whispered, "I'm almost ready now. After I finish speaking, you don't have to knock anymore. It's still a while before dark. When it's completely dark, I will knock on the wall as a signal. Then you can continue to knock on the pot to attract the zombies' attention. You don't have to worry about the rest." After saying that, he held the door tightly because he didn't know whether shouting like this would attract the zombies. Fortunately, the zombies didn't come over, so he didn't have to worry about being broken into by the zombies. After hearing what he said, the stewardess knocked for a while before stopping. However, the zombie seemed to have identified the stewardess, so it continued to knock on the door and didn't stop. He breathed a sigh of relief, and then he had to wait for dark. He sat on the ground, with his back against the door, quietly waiting for the night to fall. At that time, he would fight the zombies to the death. As he and the stewardess both quieted down, only the zombies knocking on the door remained, one after another, as if knocking on their hearts. Chapter 4 Complete the first kill. As the sun set, the last ray of sunlight dissipated between heaven and earth, and night finally fell. The zombies also stood still, and the whole city fell into a dead silence. The zombies next door also stopped, and the knocking sound stopped. Li Wending slowly stood up, then gently knocked on the wall, while pushing hard against the door. As expected, the zombie that had stopped moving pounced on his door again, and knocked on it. At this time, the stewardess next door began to knock on the basin again, leading the zombie over. He half squinted his eyes, and tightened the kitchen knife in his hand. This was his only weapon. Whether he could succeed later depended on this knife. This was also the reason why he asked the system for a novice gift package. After all, such a knife was okay for cutting vegetables, but he really didn't think it was good for chopping zombies. In fact, if he had a choice, he would rather choose to launch a sneak attack in the middle of the night. Because as time passed, in the middle of the night, the zombies' movements were the slowest, and their reactions were also the slowest. However, due to the power outage, if he waited until midnight, he would not be able to see the zombies, let alone sneak attacks. Now, the sun had just set and night had just fallen, and he could barely see a little light. At the same time, the zombies' movements were also affected. At least, the frequency and rhythm of knocking on the door were not as dense as during the day. He held the kitchen knife and opened the lock on the door little by little. Then, he carefully pushed the door open, leaving a gap for a hand to pass through. In the process, some subtle noises were inevitable, but because the knocking sound of the basin next door was loud and dense enough, it directly covered up these sounds, so it did not attract the attention of the zombies. He slowly adjusted his breathing and tried to adjust his state, because next, he would face man-eating zombies, and if he failed, he would die. When his breathing calmed down, he picked up a porcelain bowl from the ground and threw it to the opposite wall through the crack of the door he had just opened. The aisle in the middle was only 1 meter wide, so he didn't spend much effort. The porcelain bowl hit the wall and broke into pieces, making a sharp clang sound. Even in the noisy sound of knocking pots, it was so obvious. As he expected, at the moment when the porcelain bowl broke, the knocking sound next door stopped, and a dark shadow rushed over. The dark shadow rushed to the broken bowl and stretched out his hands. He didn't think about it anymore and suddenly opened the door and then chopped the zombie's neck in front of the door. In his expectation, it would be the best result to chop off the zombie's head with one knife. However, he overestimated the sharpness of the kitchen knife and underestimated the hardness of human bones. The kitchen knife only cut in 1/3 and got stuck. The zombie also heard the sound of the door opening and turned around. Even with the kitchen knife on his neck, the zombie still didn't die. At the same time, the red light in his eyes flashed, releasing a dangerous message. He didn't expect that this should be a fatal blow, but it had no effect on the zombie. If it were a normal person, he would have been lying down by now. At this moment, the zombie suddenly opened its mouth, made a huss sound, and a foul smell sprayed out. Li Wending was not prepared for a moment, and took a breath. He suddenly felt as if his head was hit hard by a sledgehammer, and the whole person felt a little dizzy. Then, the zombie pounced on him. He forced himself to stay alert, and turned his body to the side, just avoiding the zombie's pounce. The zombie was standing in front of the door, and after this pounce, it fell directly to the ground. He didn't care about so much, picked up the quilt that had been placed aside for a long time, and pounced on the zombie, covering the zombie tightly. In order to prevent the zombie from breaking free, he sat directly on the zombie's waist. Although the zombie was temporarily subdued by him, it still did not give up struggling. Moreover, even though it was pressed to the ground by him, it still had a huge force that was different from that of ordinary people, and it was faintly trying to break free from his restraints. He sat on the zombie's waist tightly, pressing the zombie down, and at the same time, pushed the quilt up, and soon saw the kitchen knife on the zombie's neck. He quickly reached out to pull out the kitchen knife, but because the kitchen knife was stuck in the bone gap, it was stuck particularly tightly. He had to stretch out both hands to hold the knife handle and pull it out. During this process, the zombie struggled desperately. So, it suddenly became a wrestling match between him and the zombie. If the zombie broke free first, he would be dead. If he could pull out the kitchen knife first, there would be a chance. Even if the zombie really broke free later, at least he had a weapon in his hand, and could still resist. He gritted his teeth, exerted force with both hands, and at the same time, clamped the zombie tightly with his feet. Suddenly, he remembered the saying in kung fu movies, that power comes from the ground. So he held the knife with both hands, and exerted force at the same time with the help of the twisting waist. Bang! He finally pulled the knife out. As the knife was pulled out, a foul smell even heavier than before floated out. At the same time, some unknown liquid sprayed on his hands, the knife, and the quilt. He stopped breathing, then held the kitchen knife, and chopped desperately at the previous gap. One cut after another, as if he was chopping ribs. All kinds of broken meat and bones flew. However, this time it didn't get stuck again. However, from time to time, the knife would be stuck by the unknown liquid. He didn't know how long he had been chopping. His hands were numb, and the zombie under him finally stopped struggling. He looked closely, and saw that the zombie's head and body were about to separate, with only a layer of skin connecting them. He quickly stood up, not bothering to clean up the scene, but directly closed the door. After all, the noise just now was too loud, and he didn't know if there were other zombies in the building. If he attracted other zombies, he would be dead in his current state. After closing the door, he kicked the zombie on the ground, and after confirming that it was completely silent, he sat down on the bed and gasped. However, he didn't take more than 2 breaths before he began to dry heave again. It was at this time that he realized that the whole room was filled with the rancid smell, which not only made him feel sick and nauseous, but also almost fainted. However, the current situation was unclear, and he had no choice but to pin his hopes on the crappy system. After all, he had just completed his first kill of a zombie, which was also considered as completing the novice mission. He should be able to receive the novice gift package. Sure enough, the system issued a ding prompt sound at the right time. Chapter 5 System Functions. Ding, the host has completed the first kill mission, and the system is officially open. This system is a zombie auxiliary system. The host can transform normal humans into zombies to fight by exchanging saliva. Ding, the host has completed the first kill mission and received a novice gift package. Open the novice gift package and get a scanner. Ding, the host successfully killed a zombie. Experience +1. A series of ding ding sounds almost made Li Wending's mind dizzy. Coupled with the double effect of the rotten smell, he felt that he was about to faint. In order not to die in such a suffocating way, he dragged his tired body to the window and finally breathed fresh air, and his brain was a little clearer. At this time, he had time to digest the information just now. However, even after reading it all, he still didn't quite understand, so he asked, "System, what does this exchange of saliva mean?" "System, it's what you understand." He was stunned for a moment. System, you are too perverted. Can't you try another way? Besides, I don't have a girlfriend who is willing to exchange saliva with me. System, the end of the world has come. The host should not be obsessed with these details. Just do it boldly. He was speechless and then asked, what's the matter with this turning people into zombies? Can I turn into a zombie by exchanging saliva with myself? The system said after a while, a bug has been found and fixed. The host can only turn others into zombies, not himself. In addition, the transformation has a time limit, and it will automatically turn back into a human after the time is up. He breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that it was just a transformation, not a permanent zombie, which was better. Otherwise, he couldn't do it. However, he quickly reacted, so the system just fixed the bug to prevent himself from transforming, right? What kind of zombie assistance system is this? It can only turn others into zombies to assist him, right? What's the use of this broken system if he doesn't have time to transform or there's no one around? He took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. Although this system is a bit of a rip-off, it's better to have it than not, so he just makes do with it. At the same time, he was also glad that the person living next door was a flight attendant, not a big guy. Otherwise, he really couldn't do it. The two big guys exchanging saliva. The scene was really beautiful. He asked again, system, why is there only a scanner in the novice gift package? This is too stingy. System, what can be obtained from the novice gift package varies from person to person. The host is very lucky, so a scanner was obtained. He couldn't help it anymore. Come on, system, stick your head over here. I will give you a buff and let you know what real assistance is. You only got a scanner, and you still say that I'm very lucky. You are really bullying me because I don't know anything, right? System, in order to demonstrate the function of the scanner to the host, the scanner is now turned on. To turn on the scanner, the host needs to deduct some experience, which has been deducted. The scanner is turning on. The next second, he only felt that he had entered a 3-dimensional space. In that 3-dimensional space, he saw 2 green dots next to each other, and at the bottom, there were 3 red dots. Apart from that, there was nothing else. Before he could take a closer look, his sight returned to reality. He complained, this scanner is still useless. It was less than a second, and I didn't see the situation clearly. System, the duration and range of the scanner depends on how much experience the host has spent. At this time, he suddenly realized, wait, system, come here, I must give you a buff this time. He didn't say he wanted to turn on the scanner just now, but the system turned it on for him on its own initiative, and also deducted some experience points from him. Isn't this deliberately cheating him? The system was silent, and ignored him at all. In fact, he has now realized that the 3-dimensional space just now should be the situation of the entire building. However, he wanted to see if he could get some more benefits from the system. Who knew that the system was so smart that it pretended to be dead? The 2 green dots should be him, and the flight attendant next door, and the 3 red dots downstairs should be a car repair shop. However, since the other party is marked with red dots, it means that the other party may have become a zombie. Therefore, as long as he doesn't go to the first floor, the entire building is still safe. In other words, he was lucky that there was only one zombie in the building, so he was able to kill it. If there had been another one, he would have been finished. He thought about it, and realized that, if he wanted to survive, he would definitely need the help of the stewardess next door. At least, that was the case for now. There was no other way. There was only one stewardess in the building, and he couldn't find anyone else. Even if he wanted to, only by letting the stewardess transform into a zombie could he kill the zombies outside, and then explore outside little by little to search for resources to survive. At the same time, he wanted to see if he could gain more experience. He believed that the system should have more functions than these, but it had not yet been shown. Since it was confirmed that there were no zombies in the building, he didn't need to stay in this house. The stench was unbearable. As for the stench, it reminded him of the stench of corpses. Generally, this thing only appears after the corpse rots. Obviously, these zombies have turned from humans into corpses, so there is such a smell. He opened the door directly, and then went to the next room, and knocked on the door. Knock knock knock. Unexpectedly, the stewardess did not respond, let alone open the door. After a while, he finally realized that the knocking sound was similar to the zombies' knocking sound before. No wonder the stewardess didn't respond. She probably thought he had been killed by the zombies. He had no choice but to shout, "Hello, can you open the door?" After a while, the stewardess's voice came from inside. "Don't knock, I won't open the door no matter what." He was helpless. Either the stewardess was on guard against him, or she thought he had turned into a zombie and was tricking her into opening the door. He thought for a while and then said, "If you don't open the door, are you going to starve to death in there? Don't worry, open the door. I'm not a bad person. I have killed the zombies. There are no zombies outside." There was silence in the room, and the stewardess didn't respond. She seemed to be thinking. Just when he was about to think of another way, there was a sound of moving things in the room. Not long after, the door was opened a little, and a ray of light came out from the crack. And in the crack of the door, an eye was staring at him. Chapter 6 Confused Stewardess. The eyes that suddenly appeared behind the crack in the door startled Li Wending, reminding him of many scenes in horror movies. However, he then realized that it was the stewardess who was observing him. So he raised his hands and turned around to show that he had no weapons and had not turned into a zombie. The stewardess observed him for several minutes before opening the door to a degree that allowed him to enter, and then nervously shouted to him, "Hurry, hurry, hurry." He walked in slowly. The stewardess closed the door with a snap and complained, "Why didn't you move faster just now? What if you attracted zombies again?" He smiled and said, "Don't worry, there are no zombies in this building anymore." The stewardess looked at him with suspicion. "Really? I don't believe it. And how did you know?" He thought for a while. "In fact, after the zombies appeared, my supernatural powers awakened, and I can sense the existence of zombies." Of course, he made these up, otherwise he would not know how to explain the existence of the system to the stewardess. Hearing this, the flight attendant frowned. That shouldn't be the case. He was stunned for a moment and asked casually, "What shouldn't be the case?" Could it be that this flight attendant was very good at observing people's expressions and could tell at a glance that he was lying? The flight attendant asked again, "How did you feel when your superpowers awakened? Did any strange phenomena occur?" He was stunned again, and then said, No, I just woke up and suddenly it appeared." "By the way, why do you ask?" The flight attendant said distressedly, "That's because you are gifted, so your superpowers awaken so quickly." "Yes, that must be the case. I read that in novels. But my talent is not bad either. I believe it will awaken soon." He breathed a sigh of relief, and then reacted, "Novel?" The flight attendant nodded as a matter of course. "Yes, novel. When I opened the door that day, I saw the landlord's wife turned into a zombie, and then I quickly searched for information on the internet, and found a lot of doomsday zombie novels, so I downloaded them. These days, I have been studying the knowledge in them. According to the development of the plot, the next thing should be the awakening of human superpowers, and then a big battle with zombies. I believe my superpowers will soon awaken." He was speechless. If he hadn't been there, the flight attendant would probably still be waiting for the awakening of superpowers until her death. Although he didn't know whether there would be any awakening of superpowers, at least it didn't seem so at present. He asked again, "Have you been reading novels these days?" The stewardess nodded. "Yes, what else can I do if I don't read novels? It's really boring to be without electricity and the internet." Only then did he react. No wonder he always felt that something was wrong in this room. It turned out that this room was too bright. He snatched the stewardess's phone and turned off the flashlight. "You know to turn off the power, so don't waste it." I don't know whether to say that she is too careless or what. It's the end of the world, but she still has the mind to read novels, and she doesn't know how to cherish the battery of her phone. The stewardess snatched the phone back directly. "Maybe there will be a call tomorrow?" He snorted coldly. "Look at the zombies downstairs. Do you think it's possible?" The stewardess's hand paused. The room was dark, and the two looked at each other in silence. After a while, the flight attendant suddenly asked, "By the way, I haven't asked you yet, what's your name, and what do you want to do in my room?" He answered directly, "My name is Li Wending." The zombie, that is, the landlady, died in my room. Now my room smells like a corpse, so I can only come to your place to stay for one night. The flight attendant took 2 steps back, putting some distance between him and her. A single man and a single woman, staying in the same room. Who knows if you have any intentions? And you said there are no zombies in the building, so can't you just find a room to sleep in? He looked at the flight attendant. I don't have the key. How can I get into other rooms? Even if I want to pry the door open, I have to wait until tomorrow. Besides, I finally killed that zombie. I'm almost dead tired, and I don't have the energy to do what you think. The flight attendant still didn't quite believe it, and kept a distance from him. He looked around, and saw that there was only one bed in the room, so he walked to the empty space on the side. I'll just sleep on the floor tonight. I won't have to sleep here tomorrow morning when I pry open other rooms. Seeing him lying down, the stewardess slowly moved to her bed, still looking at him warily. The room was dark, and only the outline of each other could be vaguely seen. But neither of them made a sound, so it was quiet for a while. After a while, both of them made a gurgling sound in their stomachs at the same time. He was already very hungry, and the fight with the zombie just now took a lot of his energy, so now he was hungry. He sighed. It seems that I have to find some dry food tomorrow. I can't cook without electricity. At this time, the stewardess was surprised and asked, do you have any rice? He was stunned for a moment. Yes, but it's all raw, and the rice cooker can't be used. The stewardess ran down from the bed directly. I still have gas and a gas stove here, but no rice. He stood up with a somersault. Then I'll go get some rice. Finally I don't have to starve. He hadn't eaten since the power outage, but fortunately there were some leftover instant noodles, so he managed to survive the past 2 days. The stewardess took out her mobile phone, turned on the flashlight and followed him. I'll go with you. Then, when they were at the door of his room, the stewardess was driven away by the stench of the corpse. He shook his head, held his breath, and rushed in to move the remaining rice out, but there was not much left. However, when he was about to cook, he found that there was a thick layer of ash on the gas stove in the pot. He turned around and looked at the stewardess. How long have you not cooked? No, how did you survive these few days? The stewardess chuckled. I bought a lot of snacks before, and I have been relying on snacks these days, but I just ran out of snacks yesterday. I bought these kitchen utensils a long time ago, but I have never used them. He immediately understood. No wonder the stewardess was willing to help attract attention. It turned out that she was at the end of her rope. There was no other way, so he went back to get a bucket of water and then wiped the pot and the gas stove. Then he washed the rice and cooked it. As for the water for washing the rice, he also kept it. At this time, no water could be wasted. With a pop, a flame came out of the gas stove, bringing a little light to the dark room. It is said that in ancient times, the emergence of fire brought a new way of life to mankind. At this time, this little flame also brought new hope to the two of them. Chapter 7. Stewardess turns into a zombie. After a while, the meal was ready. In order to save food, Li Wending didn't cook much. Both of them just had enough to fill their stomachs. However, even so, both of them ate very happily. After eating, Li Wending lay back on his mat. This was what he had just brought over. Fortunately, he didn't dirty the mat when he killed the zombies before, so he still had something to cushion his stomach. The flight attendant looked at him, then cleared her throat. I'm a person who clearly distinguishes between gratitude and resentment. Since you just cooked for me, I will take you in for one night. Also, I forgot to introduce myself just now. My name is Wang Qiuyushu. He was too tired to move, and just responded, yeah. Wang Qiuyushu then lay back on her bed, but the next second she sat up suddenly and looked at Li Wending. He was frightened by Wang Qiuyushu's eyes and asked, why are you looking at me like that? Wang Qiuyushu looked at him with a defensive look. I just remembered a phrase, which is that, when you are full and warm, you will think about sex. He was speechless. I don't have as many thoughts as you, and not only am I not full, I don't feel warm lying on the ground now. Besides, if I want to do something to you, I don't have to wait until now. Do you think you can resist me? Wang Qiuyushu nodded. That makes sense. After saying that, she lay back down, as if she had completely relaxed her guard. He didn't think about it anymore and fell asleep not long after lying on the mat. The next morning, the two woke up almost at the same time. Because they had been suffering from the zombies knocking noises in the past few days, they had formed a stable biological clock. After Wang Qiushu woke up, he first checked his clothes, and after confirming that he was fine, he actually lay back down. He got up directly to make breakfast. The so-called breakfast was actually a pot of porridge. Before finding new food, he didn't dare to eat a lot. Smelling the fragrance of porridge, Wang Qiushu did not sleep and got up directly to wash his face and brush his teeth. As for water, he used rice washing water and saved as much as possible. Then, the two of them drank the porridge, but because the amount was too small, they finished it in a short while. Wang Qiushu patted his stomach. There is only this much. It is not enough to eat. He nodded. Yeah, and the rest will not last for a few days, so we have to find a way to go out and find food. Wang Qiushu looked at him in horror. How to get out? There are so many zombies outside, I can't beat them. He smiled. Actually, I have dual powers. This is the excuse he thought about for a long time last night. Otherwise he didn't know how to start. If he went up to the flight attendant and told her directly, she would probably just be regarded as a pervert and then slap him. Wang Qiushu said dissatisfiedly, why? You actually have dual powers. It's so unfair. What is your other power? He glanced at Wang Qiushu carefully and then said, I can let you turn into a zombie to fight, but there is a time limit. You will change back when the time is up. Wang Qiushu looked disgusted. I don't want to be so ugly when I turn into a zombie. He spread his hands. Okay, then the two of us will just stay here. I hope someone will come to rescue us before these rice and water are finished. Wang Qiushu looked at the rice, swallowed his saliva, and then asked unwillingly, you can only let others change. Can't you change directly? He shook his head and sighed. If I could change, I would have changed long ago. Why would I need to come to you? At this time, Wang Qiushu's face suddenly changed, and she hurriedly said, no, I can let you sleep here. Besides, we cooperated with each other yesterday to kill the zombies. We are teammates too. You can't abandon me. He didn't know why Wang Qiushu suddenly became like this, but he still said helplessly, you are the only one in this building, and I can't find anyone else. Since you don't want to, let's just sit here and wait to die. Hearing this, Wang Qiushu remained silent. She looked at Li Wending, her face changing. After a while, she asked, are you sure you can change back? He nodded. Although the system was a bit tricky, this shouldn't be wrong. Wang Qiushu opened her hands directly, as if ready to die. Then you come. He didn't expect Wang Qiushu to pose directly, so he walked forward. Wang Qiushu looked at him getting closer and closer, and couldn't help asking, why are you walking so close? He naturally wouldn't say it at this time, but suddenly reached out and hugged Wang Qiushu, and then kissed her. Wang Qiushu was stunned. After a few seconds of being stunned, she began to try to push Li Wending away. After failing, she clenched her fist and punched Li Wending's chest. After a while, he let go of Wang Qiushu. Wang Qiushu's chest rose and fell. After taking a few deep breaths, she pointed at him angrily. Is this the superpower you mentioned? Why do I feel like you're the same as those masters of cheating women? Then she choked up again. Woo, my first kiss. He was observing Wang Qiushu carefully at this time, so he didn't answer. He didn't know what the transformation process was like, but he should have exchanged saliva just now. Probably, it was his first time kissing someone, so he wasn't very sure. Suddenly, Wang Qiushu's face began to turn red, and it gradually deepened, until it was as red as a ripe apple. Then she began to pull at her collar with her hands. What's going on? Why do I suddenly feel so hot? He was happy on his face. It finally came. This is a transformation. The system is not deceiving me. Wang Qiushu shook her head, and the whole person looked shaky. Finally, she looked at Li Wending, and gritted her teeth and said, you beast. Then she lowered her head. He didn't know what Wang Qiushu was like now, but out of concern, he still walked forward. After all, he didn't see the process of those people turning into zombies before. Moreover, if something went wrong, he would feel guilty. Just as he walked forward, Wang Qiushu suddenly raised his head. At this time, Wang Qiuyushu's eyes had completely turned red, and the nails on both hands had grown a lot longer, but there were no changes in other places. Looking at Li Wending in front of him, Wang Qiuyushu suddenly opened his mouth, revealing his white teeth, and then pounced on him. He didn't know what Wang Qiuyushu was like, so he quickly pushed forward with both hands, just supporting Wang Qiuyushu's shoulders, to prevent her from getting close. Wang Qiuyushu made an undefined ho-ho sound from her mouth, and at the same time, her hands kept scratching his body, as if she wanted to tear him apart. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. After FX of Transformation. As time went by, he felt that Wang Qiuyushu's strength was getting stronger and stronger, which was not consistent with her body size. Her mouth was getting closer and closer to him, and she was about to bite him. He subconsciously shouted, "No." At this time, Wang Qiuyushu actually stopped and stood straight in front of him. He breathed a sigh of relief and then asked hurriedly, "System, what's going on?" System, all assistants who become zombies through the host will be controlled by the host. At the same time, the host can also switch to the assistant's perspective for easy control. He touched his chin. No wonder this system is called the Zombie Assistant System. So this is what it is. But this way, it will be much more convenient. Because he can control both the main body and the assistant, at least it will be much easier when cooperating. He took out his mobile phone and started counting, and said, "Change perspective." The next second, he felt a black screen in front of his eyes. When he could see things clearly again, he found that the main body was standing in front of him. Moreover, at this time, his brain had both the perspective of the main body and Wang Qiuyushu. I have to say, it's still quite novel. He remembered that Wang Qiuyushu's nails had grown longer, so he stretched out his hand to take a closer look. As a result, he lowered his head and was almost dazzled by a burst of white. Only then did he realize that what was said on the internet, that you can't see your feet when you lower your head, was true. He gathered his mind and then began to try to control Wang Qiuyushu. Wang Qiuyushu first stretched out her hands, then moved her 10 fingers, without feeling any stiffness. This was similar to a living person, unlike the slow-moving zombies outside. Then she clenched her fists and waved them at the air a few times, but found that there was an explosive force in her body. So she swung her fists violently, and her fists hit the wall with a bang. She looked at her fists and found that there was nothing wrong with them, not even a scratch. Not to mention that Wang Qiuyushu was so delicate, even if he was in his original form, his knuckles would at least turn red. And the strength of the punch just now was definitely not something a weak woman like Wang Qiuyushu could exert. It was almost the same as the strength of his original form. This also explains why he almost failed to stop Wang Qiuyushu just now. It seems that, after becoming a zombie, the body is strengthened. Not only has the strength increased, but the skin has also become much harder, increasing the ability to withstand blows. Then, she walked around the room again. Whether it was walking or jumping, there was no problem, exactly the same as a living person, and it might even be improved a lot. However, Li Wending didn't know whether this was due to the special system, or that all zombies were evolving in the direction of living people. After all, on the first day, those zombies were so slow that even ordinary living people couldn't catch up. Then, she scratched the wall with her fingernails. The fingernails gently scratched the wall, and actually scratched a crack, but the nails were not hurt at all. It can be seen that the nails have become particularly sharp and hard, and can be used as a sharp weapon. At this time, Li Wending felt his eyes go black again. When he opened his eyes, he had returned to the perspective of the original body, and Wang Qiuyushu fell directly to the ground. He looked at his phone, and only about 4 minutes had passed. In other words, the limit of Wang Qiuyushu's transformation is about 5 minutes. Therefore, they must get rid of their opponents within 5 minutes, otherwise both of them will be in danger. He didn't think about it anymore, walked forward and pushed Wang Qiuyushu's shoulders and shook, "Wake up, wake up." Wan Qiushu opened her eyes with difficulty, and after seeing that it was him, she quickly stepped back while covering her chest tightly with both hands. Then, her tears slid down her face. "You beast." He waved his hands repeatedly. "I'm not. You misunderstood me." Wan Qiushu choked and said, "You must have drugged me just now. Otherwise why would my body suddenly get hot?" Then, she found a feeling of weakness all over her body. "Besides, I'm so tired now. Did you do something while I was unconscious?" He was about to walk over to explain, but he couldn't stand steadily and fell down. Only then did he realize that his body seemed to be hollowed out, and he was exhausted. Wan Qiushu immediately looked at him with a look of as expected. He didn't know what was going on, so he quickly asked, "System, what's going on?" System, during the transformation process, the host and the assistant's physical strength will continue to be consumed, but this will not be reflected until the transformation is over. If you want to transform again, the host and the assistant need to recover their physical strength. He immediately understood that this transformation actually has a cooldown. However, if you want to replenish your physical strength quickly, you have to eat. Moreover, the consumption of physical strength will make hunger come faster. Although, he originally planned to experiment with how to turn people into zombies, so as to avoid problems in actual combat. However, for the system's behavior of only saying half of the words, he still shouted, "System, stick your head over here, I'll give you a buff." The system remained silent and pretended to be dead again. After knowing the reason, he simply lay down and began to explain, "Actually, I didn't drug you just now, I just turned you into a zombie. As for that, and your body fever afterwards, they are all necessary stages of turning into a zombie. This is an experiment. At least now we know that the sequel of the transformation is that both of us will consume physical strength, and we need to rest for a while to recover our physical strength." Wan Qiushu was a little convinced at this time, because her clothes were all well worn, and only a few minutes had passed. However, she still asked, "Does your ability have to be done in order to take effect? Are you really not taking advantage of me on purpose?" He sighed. "You may not believe it, but my ability can only take effect if I exchange saliva with the other party, so I took this approach. But I didn't say it before, because I was afraid you wouldn't agree." Wan Qiushu said oh, as if she had accepted it, and she dragged her tired body back to bed. After a while, she suddenly asked, "Then, if there was only a rough man with a beard in this building besides you, would you kiss him?" In an instant, the house became very quiet. He turned his head away. "If that's the case, I would rather starve to death than use this ability." Wan Qiushu laughed out loud. Chapter 9, Beginning of Practical Operations. The two of them lay there for a long time before they regained their strength. Li Wending stood up, walked out, and began to pry open the doors of other rooms. Wan Qiushu followed behind, puzzled. "Didn't I agree to let you stay in my room? Why are you spending so much effort to pry open these rooms now?" He raised the kitchen knife in his hand, which was full of gaps and traces left by the dried black liquid, and there was also a foul smell. "This knife has already chopped the landlord's wife into this yesterday. How can we kill other zombies if we don't find a few more? Besides, you don't want to fight them hand to hand without any protection." Wan Qiushu's face changed. "Do you really want me to go?" He sighed. "Anyway, after you become a zombie, you will have no consciousness, so what does it matter? Don't worry, I will control you to hold down the zombie, and my real body will do it myself. Besides, as long as you take good protection, nothing will happen. Don't worry." Wan Qiushu's face looked a little better. "That's true. Then I'll just treat it as a sleep." He didn't say anything more, and began to search for things. The people who live here are all office workers, and they don't cook at home at all. Although they all have kitchen utensils at home, they didn't find anything to eat. Instead, they found a few unused gas bottles, which was an unexpected gain. As for knives, he naturally accepted them all. In addition, he took away all the clothes and quilts of these people. Wan Qiushu was puzzled. "We too can't wear so many clothes, and I have misophobia and don't want to wear other people's clothes." He glanced at Wan Qiushu. "These clothes and quilts are used for protection. I suggest you change into these clothes, because when killing zombies, you will inevitably be splashed with unknown liquids. You also smelled how smelly that liquid was last night. Wang Qiushu thought for a while and silently followed to move the clothes. By the time they finished moving these things, it was almost noon. The two cooked a meal, and after eating, they waited to start killing zombies in the afternoon. Since the afternoon battle required a lot of physical strength, he specially cooked a large portion, and both of them had a full meal. After lunch, Wang Qiushu first changed into a piece of clothing she had searched for in the morning. Then, she started to grab other clothes and put them on. After putting on 4 or 5 pieces, she had gained a lot of weight, so she put on her coat. She also put on several pairs of pants, and her legs became cylindrical, and even the curves of her legs could not be seen. On her hands, she put on gloves that could expose her fingers, so that it would not affect her nails. Finally, she took a few more clothes and wrapped them around her head, wrapping her head tightly, leaving only a pair of bright big eyes exposed. Li Wending was speechless. Your defense is too exaggerated. Even your head is wrapped up, and the whole person looks like a Zanzi. Wang Qiushu's dull voice came from the headscarf. Now it's me who is risking my life, not you. Besides, what if my face gets scratched? It's very likely that I will be disfigured. He nodded repeatedly. You are still more thoughtful. But there is a problem. You have wrapped up your mouth. How are you going to transform later? Wang Qiushu lowered his head with difficulty and finally sighed, then took off the clothes on his head and then wrapped it again. However, this time, his eyes and mouth were exposed. After finishing, she raised her head slightly and closed her eyes. Come on. He walked around Wang Qiushu, making sure that her whole body was well protected, and then said, it will take at least a few minutes to get from here to the first floor. Let's wait and change, otherwise it will be a waste. Wang Qiushu thought about it and realized that it was true, so she said, then let's go. It's uncomfortable to wear so many clothes. It's too bloated, and it's so hot. He nodded and opened the door. Wang Qiushu said, you go in front. I don't want you to see me walking later. It must be ugly. He had to walk in front, and at the same time he was holding a bunch of knives in his arms, but they were basically big kitchen knives. The lethality of fruit knives was limited, so he was too lazy to take them. The two went down all the way and finally reached the first floor. Wang Qiushu looked at Li Wending anxiously. Are you sure your plan is okay? He nodded. Wang Qiushu hesitated for a moment and suddenly said, if something goes wrong, I hope you can help me collect the body. He was stunned for a moment, then smiled. If you die, I will definitely not be able to live. Then I will rush out, help you revenge, and die with you. Tears welled up in Wang Qiushu's eyes, but she quickly closed her eyes. Come on. He kissed her directly and then quickly separated again. At this time, Wang Qiushu lowered her head and spread her hands. It's so hot. He quickly took 2 steps back. Soon, when Wang Qiushu looked up, her eyes had turned red and her nails had grown longer. With the experience of the last time, he immediately controlled Wang Qiushu. Wang Qiushu moved his hands, then directly unlocked the door and walked out. They had observed from upstairs, just now, that there were several zombies wandering outside the building. Some far away, some near, some male and some female. The sound of the door being opened attracted the attention of the zombies, and they all turned their heads to look over. However, when they saw that the zombie making the noise was the same one, they started wandering around again. This was completely different from the zombies that would pounce at the slightest sound before, and it was not in his plan. He frowned, thinking that the zombies would pounce directly at the noise, so that he only needed to let one in before he could close the door and beat the dog. Unexpectedly, after they found out that the noise was made by their own kind, they simply ignored it. After standing there for a few seconds, Wang Qiushu walked towards the zombie closest to the gate. The zombie was wearing a cheap suit and should have been a fat man when he was alive. However, after becoming a zombie, he had not eaten for so many days and was so skinny that his suit looked baggy. Even when he saw Wang Qiushu approaching, the suit zombie remained unmoved and continued to wander along the original route. Wang Qiushu didn't care about that at this time and walked directly behind the suit zombie and choked him. The action was suddenly blocked and the suit zombie struggled desperately. Chapter 10 First Successful Cooperation. The suit zombie grabbed Wang Qiushu's arm with his hands and kept stomping on the ground with his feet, but he couldn't break free. However, the sound he made once again attracted the attention of other zombies, and they all looked over. Wang Qiushu's movements froze, and she didn't know if her current behavior would be besieged. If she was really besieged later, she could only run away first and make other plans. However, the other zombies just watched and had no intention of coming up to help. Wang Qiushu breathed a sigh of relief and then dragged the zombie back step by step. It was not until she returned to the building that she let go of the suit zombie and quickly closed the door. During the whole process, Li Wending's body hid at the corner of the stairs on the 3rd floor and did not dare to make a sound or move. Fortunately, the suit zombie's sense of smell did not seem to be very sensitive, and he did not discover his existence through the smell. However, after seeing the door was closed, the suit zombie rushed up and knocked on the door, as if he wanted to go out. At this time, Wang Qiushu once again choked the suit zombie and dragged him back, not letting him knock on the door, so as not to attract all the zombies outside. Although the door is made of stainless steel and should be very strong, it would be a disaster if it was torn down by the group of zombies. The suit zombie's hands and feet scratched Wang Qiushu's arms again, tearing Wang Qiushu's coat. Li Wending's body also hurried down from upstairs. Time was limited, so he had to hurry up. At the same time, he had 2 kitchen knives in his hands. After hearing Li Wending's footsteps, the suit zombie struggled even harder, and at the same time, he desperately twisted his head back. His mouth opened wide, making bursts of ho-ho sounds, and some black liquid flowed out from the corners of his mouth and ripped onto Wang Qiushu's clothes. Wang Qiushu no longer choked the throat, but moved his hands down, and the whole person hugged the suit zombie tightly like an iron hoop, not letting the other party move, especially the hands of the suit zombie, which were directly tied by her. After completing all this, Li Wending's perspective switched back to the main body, while Wang Qiushu remained motionless, just to ensure that he would not be able to break free. Although he had just seen the appearance of the suit zombie through Wang Qiushu's perspective, when he really wanted to do it, he still found it difficult to accept it. Because although the suit zombie was already skinny and bony, just like those mummies, he could still see the original human appearance. In another sense, it was also a person. And he himself had not even killed a few chickens, let alone chopped people. As for last night, it was pitch black at the time, and he could not see what the zombie that the landlord's wife turned into looked like. So at that time he almost relied on his feelings to chop blindly, and the feeling was naturally not as strong as it is now. But calculating the time, it won't be long before Wang Qiushu will turn back into a human. If they still can't kill the suit zombie by then, both of them will be in danger. So, he exhaled suddenly, then tightened the 2 knives in his hands, and slashed at the neck of the suit zombie fiercely. With a pop, the 2 knives slashed on both sides of the neck of the suit zombie. The suit zombie was stunned for a moment, then opened his mouth wider, and a stream of black gas spurted out of his mouth. Although he was holding his breath now, he remembered the fear of being dominated by the landlord's wife's breath last night. Without thinking anymore, he pulled out the knife directly. When the knife was pulled out, 2 streams of black liquid splashed out. He was prepared, so he dodged it successfully. And Wang Qiushu was splashed with a lot of black liquid because he had to hold the suit zombie. Maybe it was because of the loss of black liquid, or because there were 2 more holes on his neck. The suit zombie didn't feel good at this time and struggled harder, and the sound became much louder. I don't know if it was because of the black liquid or the sound. A lot of zombies suddenly gathered outside the door and knocked on the door bang bang bang. He looked at the suit zombie and then at the door. The figures of the zombies could be vaguely seen through the crack of the door. He snorted coldly, "Don't worry, it will be your turn soon. Everyone will have a share and no one will be left out. All things are difficult at the beginning." After the first cut, he felt that he had successfully overcome the psychological barrier, and it would be much easier to do it later. In addition to the threat outside the door, he chopped with all his strength. Because he used 2 knives, the speed was naturally much faster. With 2-pronged approach, it didn't take long for him to hear a clang sound from the neck of the suit zombie. He naturally knew that this was the metal collision sound made by the collision of 2 knives, which meant that the neck of the suit zombie had been cut off, so he pulled out the 2 knives. As the two knives were pulled out, the head of the suit zombie also fell to the ground with a bang and rolled to the side of the door. At this time, the knocking on the door became more intense. Because he killed too quickly, Wang Qiushu had not turned back into a human. After thinking about it, he asked Wang Qiushu to drag the body of the suit zombie to one of the rooms on the second floor, and then threw it off the balcony. As a result, as soon as the corpse fell to the ground, it caused a scramble by the zombies. The scene reminded him of an idiom, a hungry dog pounces on its food. As for the head, it rolled on the ground for several times, and then was picked up by a female zombie and gnawed. The look of relish almost made him hungry. However, they were busy dismembering the body, and they really didn't knock on the door again. He finally breathed a sigh of relief at this time. If the door was demolished, they probably wouldn't be able to run away in their current state of exhaustion. At this time, he finally understood that the zombies should have been attracted by the black liquid at the beginning. From this point of view, although they are not interested in living people, they are definitely interested in black liquid or corpses of the same kind. If it weren't for the purpose of gaining experience, if they were injured, they might be able to cause them to kill each other. As he was thinking, a scream suddenly sounded next to him. Ah! He was stunned for a moment and quickly covered Wang Qiushu's mouth. Then, he looked downstairs, and found that the zombies downstairs had stopped and stared at him, which made him panic. Soon, his hand was pushed away by Wang Qiushu. Then, Wang Qiushu started to dry heave. Your hand stinks. And why do I smell bad? He pointed at the black liquid on Wang Qiushu's body. Maybe it's because of that. As for his hand, it must have been accidentally stained. Chapter 11 Promotion Mission. Hearing this, Wang Qiushu looked down at the dried black stains on his body, and then heaved again. He glanced at Wang Qiushu, which was why he did not control Wang Qiushu to kill the zombies directly. Firstly, he did not know if he could gain experience if Wang Qiushu did it. Secondly, he felt that after Wang Qiushu woke up, he might not be able to accept the fact that he had just killed a zombie. Therefore, it was better to let him do it. At this time, he had no strength in his body, so he simply lay on the ground and checked the information sent by the system just now. After killing the zombie in the suit, the system sent several messages, but he had not had time to read them before. Ding, the host successfully killed a zombie. Experience +1. Ding, Assistant Li Qiushu, zombie form, successfully helped the host kill a zombie. Experience +1. Ding, release the upgrade task, please successfully kill 10 zombies, and advance to level 1. He asked directly, can she also gain experience by helping to kill zombies? What is the use of her experience? System, whether the assistant kills zombies directly or indirectly, he can gain corresponding experience. As for the use of the assistant's experience, the host will naturally know it when the time comes. Since the system didn't say it, he didn't bother to ask. However, the system actually called Wang Qiushu an assistant, which sounds quite appropriate, because Wang Qiushu can assist him in killing. Then he remembered the power comparison just now. When in human form, Wang Qiushu's strength is definitely not as good as that of an adult man, even if she becomes a zombie. But just now, Wang Qiushu can directly make the other party unable to move. As for the throat lock at the beginning, it was just his subconscious attempt, but he didn't expect Wang Qiushu's strength to be higher than the other party, so it worked. Because it was obvious that the suit zombie didn't need to breathe, so the previous throat lock was more of a restriction on movement, rather than suffocating him and making him lose his ability to move. So he asked again, by the way, will the zombie I turned into be stronger than ordinary zombies? System, that's right. This is also one of the functions of this system. It will automatically enhance the assistance. He nodded. No wonder this system is called the Zombie Assistance System. It turns out that the system will automatically add buffs to zombies, which is quite good. If it weren't for this buff, even if the suit zombie could be dragged in just now, it would be very likely that he would break free halfway, which would be a big trouble. He then asked, also, what does it mean to be promoted to level 1? I don't even have a level. System, since the host is in the assessment stage, the current level is 0. After passing the assessment, the host will be promoted, gain a level, and new functions will be enabled. To be on the safe side, he still asked, "Wait, this promotion will not reset my experience to 0, right?" The system was silent for a moment. "Oh, no, the experience is completely retained." He nodded. "Then I'm relieved. After all, this system is too deceptive. If it swallows up all his experience, it will be a big loss." According to his speculation, these experiences will definitely be of great use later. After asking all the questions he should ask, he was ready to rest. At this time, he found that Wang Qiuyushu was actually preparing to take off his clothes. Of course, not all of them, but just the coat. The coat had been torn in several places by the suit zombies, and there were many traces of dried black liquid on it, so it exuded a foul smell. He couldn't help but ask, "What are you doing?" Wang Qiuyushu frowned and puffed his mouth, looking like he was about to vomit again. Then, she tried hard not to vomit, and looked at him. "I'm going to take off this coat. It stinks. I'm going to pass out from the fumes in a while." He nodded. "It's up to you. Just remember to put it on later." Wang Qiuyushu had only zipped up halfway at this time, and he retched again after hearing this. After vomiting, she asked, "Do you want to put it on again?" He sighed. "Of course. Think about it. He just killed a zombie and tore your coat like this. If you don't wear it, can the clothes inside stop their claws? If the clothes are torn, it might leave scars on your hands, or infect you with their virus." Wang Qiuyushu's eyebrows were twisted together, obviously struggling. He added, "Although I know the smell is very bad, I hope you can still bear it. After all, if we don't clear the zombies outside the door, we can't go out at all, let alone find food." Wang Qiuyushu's brows relaxed, and she pulled the half zipper back. "I know, I'm fine." After saying that, she retched again. He was also distressed, but he was also helpless. In fact, he and Wang Qiuyushu were very close, so he could smell the smell very clearly, but his tolerance was a little stronger. It was something similar to the stench of a corpse, but it was stronger than the stench of a corpse. You only need to take a breath. It really goes deep into the brain, and it will stay in the nasal cavity for a long time. If it weren't for the fact that taking too much makes people's heads swell, it would definitely be a magical tool for refreshing the mind. Wang Qiuyushu vomited again, and finally simply lay on the ground like him. "I really hope this is just a nightmare." He looked up at the ceiling. I guess for many people, this is a nightmare, but it did happen. In this apocalypse, all he had to do was to survive and go back to find his parents. If he relied on himself alone, it might be difficult to do it, but now with the help of the system, he felt that he still had a chance. After lying down for more than half an hour, he felt that his physical strength had almost recovered and was about to get up. But Wang Qiuyushu had already stood up before him. "Since those zombies have brought me nightmares, let me be their nightmare now." He was stunned for a moment when he saw Wang Qiuyushu's high-spirited look, and then smiled. "Well, let's kill them all." Then the two returned to the first floor, and Wang Qiuyushu transformed again, opened the door and walked out. Perhaps it was because of the experience of the previous 2 times, or because he was used to it. When he transformed this time, Wang Qiuyushu didn't seem to resist so much. And this time, his original body simply stayed here. Anyway, with Wang Qiuyushu here, those zombies would definitely not be able to get in. At the same time, he held 2 new kitchen knives in his hands. The 2 knives just now had been chopped a little bit. In order not to affect efficiency, he took down 2 new ones. Next, you just need to control Wang Qiuyushu to drag the zombies in. Chapter 12, Clearing the Door. Perhaps it was because a suit zombie sprayed a large pool of black liquid when it was chopped, and it had not completely dried up at this time, and it still exuded a foul smell. So as soon as Wang Qiuyushu opened the door and walked out, the zombies that were still wandering around rushed over. Then, because the door was closed and the smell disappeared, they returned to their original trajectory and wandered around. Li Wending's body was shocked and thought that Wang Qiuyushu was going to be besieged. The next second, Wang Qiuyushu's eyes froze because she saw that the original suit zombie was gone. Originally, she dropped the body to attract the attention of the zombies, and she knew that they were sharing the food, but she didn't expect it to be eaten so quickly. He was suddenly afraid in his heart. If Wang Qiuyushu really had an accident, it would probably be eaten up in no time. so he decided to be more cautious. Wang Qiushu stayed in place for a few seconds and chose a female zombie. Because the power of female zombies is smaller than that of male zombies, it should be easier to deal with. Moreover, the female zombie was relatively close to the gate. So, Wang Qiushu walked towards the female zombie again. This time, the zombies didn't even bother to look at her. Seeing this, Wang Qiushu was naturally not polite. He choked the female zombie with ease and dragged her back. The female zombie also struggled like the previous zombie. At this time, Li Wending's body frowned. Because according to the feedback from Wang Qiushu, the female zombie's power was obviously not small. Although it was not as good as the previous zombie, it was not much different. According to his previous guess, and what the system said, the power of this female zombie should not be so great. Then, he remembered the previous behavior of the zombies sharing the corpses. The corpses of zombies, especially the black liquid, seemed to have a great attraction to these zombies. From this point of view, perhaps they can get strengthened, or even evolved by eating their own kind. As he was thinking, he controlled Wang Qiushu to drag the female zombie back. At this time, they were almost at the gate. He quickly opened the gate, and then Wang Qiushu jumped back and dragged the zombie back in. At the same time, the other zombies smelled the smell and rushed over again. He quickly closed the door. This time, the zombies did not leave, but knocked on the door bang 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 outside. Wang Qiushu still locked the throat of the female zombie, and both of them lay on the ground. However, after seeing him, the female zombie struggled even harder, but still failed to break free from Wang Qiushu's restraints. He breathed a sigh of relief. The scene just now was so dangerous. If Wang Qiushu and his original body were not controlled by him alone, they would definitely not be able to cooperate so perfectly. Since the female zombie has been brought in, everything will be easy to deal with next. So he followed the previous method and killed the female zombie soon. Looking at the body of the female zombie, he thought about it and threw it down. Sure enough, as soon as the corpse landed, it attracted the attention of the zombies again. They didn't even knock on the door, but rushed towards the corpse. Then, Wang Qiushu also finished his transformation. However, perhaps because he had been influenced just now, Wang Qiushu's reaction this time was not as strong as before. Of course, he still had to vomit. After Wang Qiushu recovered his strength, the two of them started a new round of zombie hunting. But this time, he changed his method directly, and Wang Qiushu no longer went out to drag the other party back. Instead, his real body hid upstairs and didn't make a sound, and Wang Qiushu opened the door directly. Sure enough, as soon as the door opened, the zombies rushed over like crazy, and the corpse that was thrown down before had been eaten. The door was not open very wide, and only one zombie could enter. Wang Qiushu held the door handle tightly, and after the first zombie rushed in, she struggled to withstand the pressure of other zombies and finally closed the door. The one who rushed in was also a female zombie, but she did not attack Wang Qiushu, but directly lay on the ground and licked the large pool of black liquid. Even he felt a chill when he saw this scene. So, Wang Qiushu immediately went up and hugged the female zombie. Although her body was bound, the female zombie still seemed to have no feeling and licked the black liquid on her own. It was not until Li Wending walked down that the female zombie began to struggle and her body moved forward, trying to pounce on him. It seems that the attraction of living people is greater than these black liquids. At the same time, according to Wang Qiushu's feedback, the power of this female zombie is a little stronger than the previous one. Of course, it cannot be ruled out that this is an individual difference. He took the knife and solved the female zombie with ease, and then threw the corpse again, causing the zombies to scramble. At this time, there was about 1 minute left before the transformation was over. He couldn't help but sigh. What a pity. If he had a good weapon in his hand, plus his own perfect cooperation, he could kill at least 2 zombies in one transformation. Now, one transformation only killed one, but it was definitely not enough to kill another one. Next, the two of them hunted the zombies outside the door in this way, and every time the corpse was thrown down by Wang Qiushu, the zombies would share it, which was also considered garbage recycling. First, they could see if they would become stronger after eating the corpse. Second, these corpses would stink in the building in a short time and might even attract new zombies. After killing the last zombie, the two were exhausted. Wang Qiaiyushu lay on the ground, panting with exhaustion, and couldn't even lift her hands. Her clothes were almost dyed black, and the smell was naturally not to mention. However, after such a long time of influence, maybe he was used to it, or he was too tired. Wang Qiaiyushu no longer retched at this time. After so many experiments, he was now sure that the zombies would be stronger after eating the corpses of the same kind. However, perhaps because they could not eat much each time, or because they consumed it in the process, their strength did not increase much. Fortunately, Wang Qiaiyushu was able to hold down the zombies, otherwise, it would be really troublesome. As for the last one, he was dragged in by Wang Qiaiyushu before he even started eating the corpse. He was naturally not stupid enough to just stand by and watch the other party get stronger. Chapter 13. A family must be in good order. However, because of this, he didn't know how much stronger a zombie would be if it completely ate the body of another zombie. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. There would be plenty of opportunities in the future anyway. He was so busy killing zombies that he forgot to count. So he sighed and then asked in his mind, "System, how much experience do I need to upgrade?" System, the host now has 7 experience points and only needs 3 experience points to upgrade to the next level. He nodded and murmured, 3 more. Wang Qiaiyushu couldn't help but ask, "What did you say?" He forced a smile with difficulty. "I said, we killed 7 zombies today, and we will have 10 if we kill another 3. Wang Qiaiyushu was stunned for a moment. "So many? But these were all killed by you. I just helped to catch them. Even my body was controlled by you. I didn't do anything at all." He smiled. "No matter what, it took your help to do it. If it was just me, I would have been torn into pieces by those zombies long ago." Wang Qiaiyushu was silent for a while, then suddenly said seriously, "Can you let me kill one next time?" He suspected that he had heard it wrong. "Ah." Wang Qiaiyushu repeated, "I said, let me kill one next time." He smiled. "Forget it. It's easy to get your hand stained with the black liquid when chopping. Now my hands are all smelly. We don't have much water, and I doubt it can wash away the smell. It may take a few days for it to evaporate on its own." Wang Qiaiyushu shook his head, sat up and looked at him. "You misunderstood me. I didn't mean that you control my body to kill, but I will do it myself. I have figured it out. In this end of the world, I can only survive by relying on myself, so I will have to face it sooner or later. In this case, let's start from this moment." He was stunned for a moment, looking at Wang Qiaiyushu's bright eyes and firm look, and then replied, "Okay." Getting his consent, Wang Qiaiyushu smiled. "However, all the zombies outside have been killed. Even if you want to kill more, you have to go next door." He shook his head. "Remember what I told you yesterday? The family of 3 in the auto repair shop downstairs have all turned into zombies. I just observed them, and they have not appeared. At least I didn't see any zombies that looked like children. So I think they should be trapped in the store." Wang Qiaiyushu lay down again. "That's perfect. When I have rested enough, I will kill them all. Remember, you must leave one for me this time." Li Wending also lay down. "Okay." Since the zombies outside the door were cleared, the two of them relaxed a lot. This time they rested for a long time before standing up. Then, Wang Qiaiyushu transformed into a zombie again and walked out. At the same time, he also took the last corpse out and threw it outside. After Wang Qiaiyushu went out, he closed the door directly and left his body in the building. Although there were no zombies wandering outside the door at this time, who knew if there would be that kind of old shady guy hiding somewhere, he didn't want to put himself in danger. Moreover, at this time, his life was not only his own, but also related to Wang Qiaiyushu's. If he died, Wang Qiaiyushu would probably be in trouble. The auto repair shop downstairs was next to the gate, so Wang Qiaiyushu took 2 or 3 steps with his long legs. Through Wang Qiaiyushu's perspective, he finally knew why the family of 3 had not come out. At this time, the 3 zombies of the family were wandering in the store, and the door made of glass could see them clearly. He guessed that, when the zombies appeared, they should have closed the glass door directly, to prevent the zombies outside from entering. However, it happened that the three of them were infected with the flu virus, so they all turned into zombies, and they were locked inside, and couldn't get out. But the door was closed, so it was not easy for Wang Qiushu to get in. After thinking about it, his original body opened the door, threw out a kitchen knife, and then quickly closed the door again. Wang Qiushu picked up the kitchen knife from the ground, and then knocked directly at the glass door. Under her terrifying power, the glass door was broken in a few seconds. At the moment the glass shattered, the family of three who came to the door, because of the sound, rushed out directly. At this time, Wang Qiushu quickly held the kitchen knife in front of his chest. Who knew that the family of three didn't even look at Wang Qiushu, but rushed to the last remaining corpse, and started to bite it. He didn't expect that there would be such a good thing. If it weren't for the family of three, he would have forgotten that the last body had not been dealt with. Wang Qiushu looked at the kitchen knife in her hand, then looked at the family of three, and threw the kitchen knife aside. Then, she walked into the store, and came out swinging a big hammer. This big hammer is twice as big as the common hammer, and the handle is 2 arms long. The front end of the hammer is a large cylindrical iron block, and the hammer handle is a hollow iron pipe. His main body nodded. Although this thing is a blunt instrument, its lethality is at least much greater than that of the kitchen knife. If there was this big hammer just now, maybe 2 people could be killed at once. At this time, the family of 3 were feasting, each holding a piece of meat and biting it. Wang Qiushu came behind the male zombie with the big hammer, and then swung the hammer and smashed it at the back of his head. With a bang, the male zombie was smashed directly to the ground, and the back of his head was even a little concave. However, he did not die just like that. He supported himself on the ground with his hands, and struggled to get up. Wang Qiushu swung the hammer again and smashed the male zombie's head with another hammer, knocking him down. Then, he hammered again and again until his entire head was smashed into a mess. During this process, Wang Qiushu had been paying attention to the movements of the other 2. She was not sure whether it would lead to a siege. But after Wang Qiushu stopped, the 2 zombies did not mean to take revenge. Instead, they gave up the previous corpse, and pounced on the corpse of the male zombie, and began to bite it. Wang Qiushu breathed a sigh of relief, and then did the same thing to smash the female zombie to death. The last thing left was a child zombie, or to be more precise, a baby. He remembered that the baby could not walk yet, but he did not expect that, after becoming a zombie, he could not only walk, but also eat meat. Thinking of what Wang Qiushu said before, he controlled Wang Qiushu to use a hammer to smash the hands and feet of the child zombie, leaving only a body. Chapter 14 Wang Qiushu's first time. However, even so, the child zombie still did not die, but still maintained a strong vitality, with its mouth wide open, and making bursts of ho-ho sounds, obviously extremely angry. However, the zombie at this time had no killing power at all. So Wang Qiushu lifted him up with one hand, and dragged the hammer with the other hand, and returned to the building. As soon as he entered the building, Wang Qiushu's transformation time was over. He quickly supported Wang Qiushu, and then the 2 sat on the ground together. The child zombie was thrown aside. Wang Qiushu slowly opened her eyes, and at the same time her nostrils flared. She only felt a strong stench rushing straight into her nose, and into her brain. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw the child zombie grinning on the ground, and was immediately startled. However, since he had just killed 2 zombies at once, and cut off the child zombie's hands and feet, it was completely Li Wending's extraordinary performance. Therefore, Wang Qiushu was already a little exhausted at this time. Although she felt scared, she could not move. After Wang Qiushu saw the situation of the child zombie clearly, she was not scared at all, but the smell was too strong, which made her feel uncomfortable. Then the 2 of them rested on the spot. The child zombie kept making ho-ho sounds, and the blood-red eyes kept staring at them. However, black liquid kept flowing out of his limbs, so he didn't look intimidating at all. After recovering a little strength, Li Wending said, "I think this one is easier to deal with, so I left him. If you can't do it, let me do it." After all, although this child has changed from a human to a zombie, he can still look like a human. Of course, compared to human babies, this child is not only not cute, but also a bit hideous. Wang Qiushu shook his head. "There's nothing I can't do." He nodded, then asked, "Do you want a kitchen knife or a hammer?" If you want a kitchen knife, just chop the neck. If you want a hammer, just smash the head until he dies. Wan Kyushu looked at the kitchen knife, which had already been bent, and swung the hammer directly. He walked to the side. Although the child zombie had no ability to resist, he still didn't want anything to happen. The hammer was swung high, and after reaching a certain height, it suddenly fell down. With a bang, the hammer hit the child zombie's face directly. When the hammer was swung up, you can see that the child zombie's entire face was dented. But from his still twitching facial features, it was obvious that he was not dead. Then, the hammer fell again. Then, hammer after hammer, until the head was smashed into a paste. Even so, Wan Kyushu still didn't stop, as if he didn't know how to get tired, and like a machine that runs non-stop. He saw that something was wrong, so he quickly stepped forward, grabbed Wan Kyushu's hand, and snatched the hammer. Enough, he's dead. Wan Kyushu turned his head, and looked at him blankly. After a long while, 2 lines of tears rolled down, and then she leaned on his shoulder and cried. He was stunned for a moment, and after a long while he dropped the hammer, then patted her back gently with his hand. Okay, it's okay. Wan Kyushu stopped crying not long after, looking at him with tearful eyes. But I can kill zombies too. Please don't abandon me. He felt strange. I never said I would abandon you. Wait, did you kill the zombies just now just to prove this? Wan Kyushu nodded blankly. I read in novels that at the end of the world, those women without abilities were particularly miserable and even became slaves of others. But I'm not. I can do it too. Besides, your superpowers are not only effective on me. What if you don't want me anymore? He couldn't help but slapped his forehead. Read less novels in the future. I've said that we are now in a mutually dependent relationship. Besides, we are teammates who live and die together, so I won't abandon you. Wan Kyushu was stunned for a moment. Is that so? He was speechless, and then asked, by the way, why were you crying just now? Are you guilty for attacking a child? Wan Kyushu shook her head. I didn't expect that I could actually do it. I thought I would never dare to face zombies directly. He was silent for a moment. It's okay, I'm here. You don't have to do it. Wan Kyushu shook her head again. It's okay, I don't want to be a burden to you. I can kill zombies. But it's better to kill them when I become a zombie. After saying that, she raised her arm. The clothes on her arm were torn into strips. Fortunately, she wore enough clothes so it didn't go deep into the last layer and scratch her hand. Otherwise, I don't know what the consequences of being injured would be. After all, in those zombie novels, once a living person is bitten or scratched by a zombie, it is very likely that the living person will become a zombie. Although the system allows Wan Kyushu to switch between human and zombie, it can be changed back. If he is infected with the zombie virus, it is not certain. However, in fact, he is also quite curious. That is, Wan Kyushu's strength is stronger than that of ordinary zombies, and he doesn't know if the physical strength is the same. However, he will not use Wan Kyushu for experiments. At this time, it was already late, and at night, the visual range was greatly reduced. Although the zombies basically did not move when they went up, some strange ones might appear. So, for safety reasons, he decided to stop here today. Moreover, the zombies at the door had been cleared today, and at night he could just plan what to do tomorrow. In order not to attract new zombies, he resisted the nausea and took the body of the child zombie out. As for the pool of black liquid on the ground and the sauce that the child zombie was smashed out, the two were mixed together and sticky. Considering that they would have to live here for a while in the future, he still shoveled these things up with a kitchen knife and threw them out. Wan Kyushu naturally couldn't do this job, so she just watched from the side. But her clothes were torn, dirty and smelly, so she threw them all away, leaving only the innermost set. Anyway, there were a lot of clothes, and they were meant to be consumed. After finishing, the two of them supported each other upstairs. After returning, he remembered that the body of the landlord's wife had not been dealt with, so he quickly dealt with it. Otherwise, in 2 days, the smell will spread to Wan Kyushu's room, and then they will not be able to live there anymore. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Panel Appearance. The two of them then changed their clothes and washed themselves briefly. As he had guessed before, the smell on his hands could not be washed off, so the important task of washing rice was left to Wang Qiushu. At least her hands were not stained with the black liquid. After washing, he started to cook. While waiting, he began to check the system messages, which he had not had time to check just now. Moreover, he had already killed 10 people, and was very curious about what new functions the system would enable. Ding, the host has completed the killing mission, and the reward is a weapon upgrade. Ding, the host has completed the killing mission, and has been promoted to level 1. The panel function is turned on. The host can view the status of himself and the assistant through the panel. Ding, because the host has been promoted to level 1, the mall function is turned on. The host can now view and redeem level 1 products. Ding, the assistant has killed 10 zombies and has been promoted to level 1. He asked directly, what does weapon upgrade mean? Any weapon is fine. System. Weapon upgrade means to modify the weapon to increase the weapon's lethality, especially for zombies. Even if the host wants to upgrade an ordinary wooden stick, it will be a wooden stick that is particularly powerful against zombies after the upgrade. He was speechless. What kind of description is this? This pitiful system is not speaking human language again. However, he knew that, even if he asked more, he would not get anything out of it, so he just forgot it. As for the weapon upgrade, it came at the right time. It just happened that he was in need of a handy weapon. The kitchen knife would bend after a while and could not be used continuously. Although the hammer has strong lethality, it is too heavy. Moreover, the hammer is only convenient to hit when the opponent is crouching. If the opponent is standing, it will not work well. But he thought about it, turned around and asked Wang Qiushu, what weapon do you want to use in the future? A kitchen knife or a hammer? Now he only has a kitchen knife and a hammer. Upgrading these iron tools is better than the wooden stick mentioned by the system. Moreover, since it is an upgrade, the kitchen knife with a bent blade may be repaired, which is definitely a profit. Wang Qiushu was waiting in the back to smell the food. He was stunned for a moment when he heard this sudden question. He explained, although my superpower allows you to transform after the transformation at this stage, I control it. However, I believe that with the evolution of superpowers in the future, you can also fight on your own. So, I want to ask, what kind of weapon do you want to choose? And I will help you upgrade it. Because it is very difficult to do two things at the same time. Now he basically either controls Wang Qiushu or controls the main body. At most, he can switch to the limit, and it is impossible to control two at the same time. According to the system, it must not be able to have only one auxiliary, otherwise it would be too useless. So in the future, it is likely that he will let them transform, and then they will fight on their own, and he only needs to cheer them on from behind, or add buffs to them. Well, this is what a qualified auxiliary system should do. Wang Qiushu nodded, as if he understood. But soon she asked again, wait, the weapon upgrade you mentioned is not another new superpower, right? He also felt a little embarrassed, but nodded anyway. He is now very glad that Wang Qiushu reads older online novels, otherwise he would have guessed that he does not have superpowers, but a system. Wang Qiushu was silent for a while, as if she had gotten used to him having multiple superpowers. Then she said, then let's have the hammer. After all, I just used it to complete the first kill. He replied, okay, I'll give it to you after the upgrade is completed. He didn't dare to let the system upgrade the hammer now. What if it shone with golden light or something? Then he couldn't explain it clearly. He couldn't say it was a magic trick, so he had to wait until Wang Qiushu fell asleep before upgrading. After choosing the weapon to upgrade, he said in his mind, system, check the panel. Host, Li Wending level 1 physical condition, weakened uninjured experience. 10 number of zombies, to be killed to advance to the next level. 100 number of assistants. 1 transformation time that can support assistants. 5 minutes, increases with physical fitness, assistant Wang Qiushu level. 1 physical condition, weak and uninjured, can evolve once, transformation time. 5 minutes, increases with physical fitness, weapons, none at the beginning. He was quite happy because he could finally see his own panel. A system without a panel is incomplete. However, when he saw the 100, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. You know, he and Wang Qiushu worked so hard today to kill only 10 zombies. The next level would require 100. What about the next level? He didn't dare to think about it. He sighed and asked, "System, is the experience of this upgrade a multiple of 10? Then if I want to upgrade from level 2 to level 3, don't I have to kill 1000 zombies? System, so the host needs to get more helpers. The more helpers there are, the more zombies can be killed, and the faster the host can upgrade." Now he understood. The system was forcing him to develop downlines. The more downlines there are, the faster the upgrade. However, why does this sound so much like a pyramid scheme? The difference is that a pyramid scheme can develop downlines infinitely, and downlines can develop downlines again, so it develops much faster. But he can only develop downlines by himself, and how much help he can get depends on himself. He sighed. This job is not easy to do. At the beginning, Wang Qiushu and he were both at the end of their rope, and he didn't dare to tell her clearly in advance. It was not until she experienced it herself, and she didn't seem to be very smart, that she would accept him so easily. Now so many days have passed, and I don't know how many people are still alive. Those who can survive until now must have extraordinary qualities, and don't necessarily need him to save them. Moreover, if he rashly walked up to her and wanted to kiss her, he would definitely be beaten up as a pervert. If he thought about it this way, Wang Qiushu was the best. Not only did he not beat him, but he also accepted this way of transformation. Forget it, let's talk about the future later. He didn't think about it anymore, but asked, "System, what is the situation with this transformation time?" System, it is written very clearly above. Can't the host read? He took a few deep breaths, and finally couldn't help it. System, stick your head over here, I will give you a buff. Is he an illiterate person? Would he ask such a superficial question? System, the host is currently in a state of fatigue, so even if I stick my head over, you can't do anything, let alone give me a buff. Chapter 16 Wang Qiushu Evolution. He was stunned for a moment, and then he found that what the system said was completely true. He became even more unhappy. This system was designed to go against him, right? After he calmed down, he asked, what if Wang Qiushu's transformation time on the panel is longer than mine? System, normally, the time the auxiliary can transform depends on the host's transformation time. In other words, once the host's physical strength is exhausted, the auxiliary will automatically turn into a human. Of course, even if the host's physical strength is exhausted, and the auxiliary's transformation time has not yet arrived, the host can choose to maintain the auxiliary's transformation. He asked quickly, then if I choose to maintain it, what is the price? There is no free lunch in this world. He doesn't believe that the system will set a limit on the transformation time, and will allow him to maintain the auxiliary's transformation at no cost. System, human potential is unlimited, and the host, as a young man, has a more vigorous life. Therefore, if you want to maintain the auxiliary transformation, it will cause overdraft to the host. In a short period of time, it may cause the host to be weak for a period of time. As for the length of time, it depends on the degree of overdraft, which may be 1 day, or 3 to 5 days. In a long period of time, it may even burn the host's life, that is, shorten the lifespan. He shook his head quickly and secretly wrote this down. This is very important. If you forget it, won't you be squeezed dry? He thought for a while and asked again, by the way, system, you just told me to develop more assistants, so is the transformation time on my panel valid for all assistants? The system snorted coldly in a very humane way, and then replied, I know what the host is thinking. Your 5 minutes can only be applied to one assistant, not all assistants. When you summon multiple assistants at the same time, they will share your transformation time equally. He curled his lips and muttered, then it's better to use only one, at least it can last for 5 minutes. Forget it, 5 minutes is 5 minutes. The barbarian king can be called a real man with only 5 seconds, let alone I have 5 minutes? Wan Qiushu behind him asked curiously, what 5 minutes? What real man? He shook his head quickly, nothing. However, if there are more assistants in the future, you still have to improve your physical fitness, otherwise you won't be able to fight for a long time. But that's a matter for the future. Now you can't even eat enough. Where can you get enough calories for them to increase their physical fitness? Without thinking about it anymore, when he looked at Wan Qiushu's panel, he found that there was an option to evolve once behind his physical condition. This was not mentioned in the message sent by the system before, and he would not have known it if he had not checked the panel. So, he knew that the system had tricked him again. Of course, he was a generous man, so he would not argue with the system. He asked in his mind, what does this evolution mean? System, every time the auxiliary level is upgraded, you can get an opportunity to evolve. You can choose to evolve in a certain aspect, such as acceleration, strength, and defense. Or you can strengthen a certain part of the body, such as nails, calves, and arms, which can make the nails sharper, the calves stronger, and the arms more explosive. In short, there is nothing the system can't do, only things you can't think of. After a pause, the system added, since this is the first upgrade, it is only the simplest evolution, so the host should not think about flying, because that is something that can only be done with high level evolution. He was immediately disappointed, but after thinking about it, it was also true that you can't eat a fat man in one bite. So, he turned around and asked, well, if you could evolve, what would you choose to evolve? That is, anything is fine. Wan Qiushu almost didn't hesitate and answered directly, then evolve my face. Hearing this answer, he was stunned. He thought it would be to make his breasts bigger, make his body better, etc. But he didn't expect it to be to evolve his face. After all, in his opinion, Wan Qiushu was already beautiful enough. Even if she evolved again, it would only be icing on the cake. There was no need. Feeling his gaze, Wan Qiushu knew what he was thinking. She touched her face. Although I have clothes for protection now, what if I encounter a powerful zombie in the future and my face is injured? I don't want to leave scars on my face. Therefore, I have to strengthen my face. The harder the better, preferably hard enough that it won't get hurt. He suddenly realized, then I'll give you a thick skin. Wan Qiushu was so angry that she kicked him directly. Why do I feel like you are scolding me? He quickly dodged. No, I'm definitely praising you. I think your evolution is really smart. Maybe you can reach the state of being invulnerable to swords and guns in the future. However, since you want to protect your face, why not strengthen your head? Maybe you can achieve the effect of Iron Head Kung Fu. Wan Qiushu nodded. Yeah, that's okay. At this time, he suddenly sang a song. Shaolin Kung Fu is good, really good. Shaolin Kung Fu is great, really great. He has diamond legs, and I have Iron Head Kung Fu. Wan Qiushu was immediately amused by him. Then he said to the system, Wan Qiushu evolves the head, especially the face, and the evolution direction is hardness. System, ding, the evolution is complete. He nodded, but there was no way to verify the results of the evolution now, so he would try again tomorrow. At this time, the meal was ready, still only white rice, and the two of them had consumed a lot of physical energy today, so he cooked a big pot. After finishing the meal, Wan Qiushu asked, so what's our plan for tomorrow? He said without hesitation, of course we are going to the seafood restaurant next door. We are running low on food and water, so I hope we can get something in their kitchen. Wan Qiushu nodded. However, to get there from here, we have to pass through 3 rental buildings. Is that really okay? Besides, we don't know how many zombies there are in the restaurant. Even if there weren't many customers at the time of the incident, they must have had quite a few staff members. He waved his hand. That should be no problem. We made such a big noise today. If there were zombies in the rental building next door, they would have been lured out long ago. As for the zombies in the restaurant, that's indeed a problem. But don't forget, I still have the exploration function. When the time comes, let me explore, and I'll know the situation inside. Wan Qiushu breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, I'll leave it to you. Then, she lay down on the bed, and at the end she said, good night. He smiled and replied, "Good night." Chapter 17 Upgraded Hammer. Today's labor was too intense, so Wang Qiushu fell asleep soon, and a steady breathing sound came out. Although Li Wending also lay down, he did not fall asleep. He turned his back to Wang Qiushu, hunched over, and the hammer lay quietly in his arms. There was no way he didn't want the hammer to flash or anything like that when it was upgraded, which would alarm Wang Qiushu. After adjusting his posture, he silently said, "System, help me upgrade the hammer." The system said coldly, "Host, this system has always been honest and trustworthy. If I say I will give you the opportunity to upgrade, I will naturally not break my promise. You don't have to scold me." He was stunned for a moment. "I didn't scold you. Didn't I ask you to upgrade the hammer?" "System, you still say you didn't scold me?" He suddenly reacted. "System, upgrade the hammer in my arms." The system paused. "The hammer is being upgraded." Then he said, "System, check them all." The next second, a store interface commonly seen in games appeared in front of him, with several things on it. He clicked on them one by one. Level 1 Stamina Medicine. Instantly restores stamina. Can only be used once a day. 2 experience points are required to purchase level 1 Healing Medicine. Instantly heals. Can only be used once a day. 2 experience points are required to purchase Upgrade a Weapon. Primary Upgrade. 10 experience points are required to purchase Scanner. Upgrade. Primary Upgrade. Double the scanning range. Double the time. 10 experience points are required to purchase a box of instant noodles. 1 experience point is required to purchase a bucket of purified water. 1 experience point is required to purchase bicycle. 5 experience points are required to purchase. That's all that appeared for now. He thought about it. Although the medicine and upgraded weapons in the front were good, they could only be used once a day, so it was not worth it. As for the instant noodles and purified water in the back, he skipped them directly. He was not at the end of his rope yet. As for the bicycle, he frowned. "System, you want to cheat me again, right? A bicycle costs 5 experience points. System, the power is off now, so you can't use an electric car, even if you have one. As for the car, it's too expensive for you to buy, and it consumes fuel. Overall, a bicycle is more suitable for your current situation. It doesn't consume electricity or fuel, and it's convenient for traveling." He nodded in agreement. "Yes, if you want to go somewhere, it's more convenient to have a car. At least it's much faster than walking." "System, then please buy it quickly." The host, "The quick hand will get it. The slow hand will get it." But he quickly reacted. "Wait a minute, there are a bunch of bicycles downstairs. I can just pry the lock open. Why should I buy it from you? Many people go to work nearby, so they all ride bicycles." The system said disappointedly. "The commercial bicycle has been deleted. It seems that the so-called bicycle is really used to cheat him." He looked around again, and finally said, "System, upgrade the scanner. As the saying goes, knowing yourself and the enemy will ensure victory in every battle. Tomorrow's restaurant is an unknown place, and there may be some hidden murderous intentions, so upgrading the scanner is definitely the best choice." System, ding, deduct 10 experience points. The scanner has been upgraded. He then said, "System, turn on the scanner." Since it has been upgraded, he naturally wants to see how the scanner works. System, ding, the host experience is 0, and the scanner cannot be turned on. He was stunned for a moment, miscalculated, forgot that he would have no experience after buying it, and turning on the scanner requires at least 1 experience point. So, what should he do tomorrow? He was almost fainted from anger. He was still happy that he was not fooled by the system, but the next step was to dig a hole and bury himself. In addition, he was too tired today, so he fell asleep in a short while. The next morning, when he turned over, he felt a hard object in his arms, which made him a little uncomfortable. Although he had been used to it for more than 10 years, he still laughed out loud at this time. Then, he opened his eyes, and found that the hard object was the hammer he was holding yesterday. His smile froze on his face. However, the next second, his attention was attracted by the hammer. The original hammer was already very old, covered with dark red rust, which had a bit of ancient flavor, but now the hammer in his arms was brand new. The color of the hammer turned black and red, and it was solemn and charming. The hammer was covered with strange patterns, and at the same time it had a unique beauty. The hollow hammer handle became solid, and a non-slip design was added at the end of the hammer handle, so there was no need to worry about the hammer being thrown out if it was not held. The most important thing was that the whole hammer doubled in size, which also meant a larger striking area. He picked up the hammer and swung it, but found that it was actually much lighter than yesterday, which immediately made him doubt the lethality of this thing. After all, as a blunt instrument, it is useless to have a large striking area, and it still depends on the weight. However, if it is too heavy, Wang Qiushu may not be able to swing it, so this problem is quite troublesome. The system sent a message at the right time. Ding, a hammer has been upgraded for the host. Please check the detailed information of the hammer. As a very good-tempered host, he naturally would not care about the system. Of course, the main reason is that he can't do anything about the system. He opened the system panel and found that there was an earth hammer in Wang Qiushu's weapon column. He clicked it directly. Earth hammer, primary form, upgradable, increase the lethality to zombies by 10% and reduce the weight by 10% compared to before. Introduction, small hammer is 50 and large hammer is 80. Which one do you want? Features, non-stick pan, no matter what it touches, it will not stick, eliminating the trouble of cleaning. He nodded. The lethality has increased, and the weight has decreased, which is really good. And the non-stick pan feature is even better. At least there is no need to worry about cleaning the hammer in the future. Otherwise, I don't know how long it will take to clean up the mincemeat and black liquid that sticks to the zombies when killing them. At this time, Wang Qiushu also woke up. She stretched and then muttered, my body feels like it's falling apart. My hands and feet ache. I wish this body wasn't mine. His situation was similar to Wang Qiushu's, except that he usually exercised, so he was better than Wang Qiushu, but not much better. Soon, Wang Qiushu saw the hammer in his hand, and instantly she didn't feel tired anymore. She rushed to him and looked at the hammer of the earth. Wow, this pattern is so beautiful. The color is also very good. There is a sense of beauty of killing. He smiled and handed over the hammer of the earth directly. You try it. Chapter 18. Zombies don't observe martial ethics. Wang Qiushu hesitated for a moment and carefully took the sledgehammer. However, after she took it, she found that the hammer was much lighter than she expected, even lighter than yesterday. Because of her emotional outburst yesterday, she didn't feel anything when she swung the hammer. But when she put down the hammer, she felt a sore and numb feeling in her arm, and she couldn't lift it for a long time afterwards. She swung it twice more and asked curiously, is it because I was too tired yesterday that I feel the hammer has become heavier? Or is it lighter now? He smiled and said, your feeling is right. Although the hammer has become bigger, it is lighter. At the same time, its lethality is greater than yesterday. However, we have to try it to know the specific effect. By the way, its current name is Hammer of the Earth. Wang Qiushu nodded happily. Hammer of the Earth. This name is very domineering and has a sense of heaviness. Let's go and try it now. He quickly grabbed Wang Qiushu and said, don't be in a hurry, eat first. Wang Qiushu said and then held the hammer and refused to let go. After the two washed up and had breakfast, they went downstairs. Wang Qiushu was still dressed tightly, like a zangzi. Soon the two came to the first floor. Although they had just observed from upstairs, they did not see other zombies outside, and the child zombie and the body of the landlord's wife were still in place. However, for safety reasons, they chose to let Wang Qiushu transform into a zombie before going out, while Li Wending's original body remained in the building. After the transformation, Wang Qiushu picked up the Hammer of the Earth from the ground. Since the zombie form was more powerful, Li Wending felt that the hammer was lighter to swing. Moreover, with Wang Qiushu's height advantage, he didn't feel awkward at all swinging such a big hammer, but instead revealed a hint of domineering and had a feeling of being invincible. Li Wending opened the door, and then Wang Qiushu walked out and went straight to the left. The two adjacent buildings were rental buildings, but the doors were closed, and from time to time, a burst of zombies ho-ho sounds could be heard from inside. Therefore, there might be living people inside, which caused the zombies to move like this. Going further ahead, there was an apartment. He remembered that among the zombies killed yesterday, there were 2 who looked like the security guards in the front desk of this apartment, but they had been killed. So when Wang Qiushu passed by this apartment, he didn't see any zombies appear. There might be zombies in this apartment building, but they have nothing to do with him. Wang Qiushu continued to walk forward and came to today's target, a seafood restaurant. Although the scale of this restaurant is not very large, it usually has a lot of customers. Fortunately, it was not mealtime when the accident happened, so there should be no customers inside. In other words, it is only necessary to deal with the staff who have turned into zombies. Wang Qiushu sighed. It was a pity that the scanner could not be used. It would be great if I could see the situation inside. Now I can only go in first and take it one step at a time. The door of the restaurant is a glass sliding door, which is made of very thick glass, so the situation inside can be clearly seen from the outside. However, at this time, Wang Qiushu stood outside the door and looked inside, and did not see any zombies or people. The lobby of the entire restaurant was empty and very quiet, as if there were no living things here. The ground was a mess. All kinds of tables and chairs fell to the ground, and there were broken dishes and chopsticks scattered everywhere. Li Wending frowned. From Wang Qiushu's perspective, it was very likely that the living people in the restaurant opened the door and ran away when the accident happened, and the zombies followed the living people out, so there was nothing here. And when those people left, they probably took the food away. In other words, they might return empty-handed today. However, since they were here, they naturally had to see what the situation was. So, Wang Qiushu carefully pushed the door open and walked in. Although it looks peaceful now, who knows what kind of murderous intentions are hidden under the peace. The more it was like this, the more he missed the scanner, and at the same time he wanted to slap himself twice. Why upgrade the scanner for no reason? Wang Qiushu walked in slowly, looking around vigilantly, holding the hammer of the earth firmly in his hand, ready to swing it out at any time. Walking along the way, the soles of his shoes stepped on the broken dishes, making bursts of crisp clicking sounds, which seemed even more terrifying in this silent space. After walking forward for several steps, there was still no abnormality, which made Li Wending wonder if his worries were unnecessary. After all, according to his previous observations, those zombies are particularly sensitive to sound, and they like to wander aimlessly when they have nothing to do. If there were zombies here, they should have come out long ago. Wang Qiushu took another step forward. At this time, a zombie suddenly jumped out from behind a table that had fallen to the ground next to her, hugged Wang Qiushu at once, and bit her with his mouth wide open. Wang Qiushu didn't expect that this zombie would actually attack her by surprise, and was successfully attacked when she was caught off guard. Because the zombie's breath was so stinky, she turned her head to the side at this time. This is because, when he controls Wang Qiushu, all the feelings of Wang Qiushu's body will be fed back to Li Wending's body. That is, he can completely empathize with her. It is precisely because of this that he can do it, as if he were fighting himself. In this way, when Wang Qiushu attacks, she can react quickly, and even the effect of the attack will be clearly known, so that there will be no damage due to too little force or too much force to waste energy. However, all the bad things Wang Qiushu felt, or the pain after being attacked, would be fed back to Li Wending's body. Although Li Wending's body would not have wounds or anything like that, that feeling was real. Just like now, Wang Qiushu's consciousness was asleep, so no matter how bad the zombie's breath was, she couldn't feel it. Li Wending's body felt it very clearly, so he controlled Wang Qiushu to turn his head to the side. Otherwise, there would be no need to fight. He would soon be suffocated, and Wang Qiushu would be finished. After a few seconds of rest, Wang Qiushu swung the hammer of the earth with both hands, trying to fight back, but found that he couldn't lift his hands at all. It turned out that the zombie was hugging her, so Wang Qiushu's hands were bound together, and she couldn't move at all. Chapter 19 Eat My Iron Head Skill. Her hands were bound, which meant that she couldn't swing the hammer of the earth unless she let go, and then let the hammer hit the zombie's feet, so that the other party would feel pain, and then let go. However, zombies didn't seem to know pain at all, so this idea was quickly rejected by her. Therefore, although she held a magical weapon like the hammer of the earth in her hand, she couldn't use it at all. At this time, the zombie bit Wang Qiushu's arm. Fortunately, Wang Qiushu wore enough clothes and was not bitten. However, she could still feel the pain coming from her shoulder. The next second, the zombie raised its head, and with a rip sound, it actually bit off a large piece of cloth. Wang Qiushu was shocked. If there were a few more hits, it would be terrible. She began to struggle hard. However, although her strength was a little greater than the other party, the zombie directly clasped his hands together, and the whole thing was like a closed lock. No matter how Wang Qiushu struggled, he didn't move at all, and continued to attack Wang Qiushu. Wang Qiushu had to try to dodge in a small area, so as not to let the opponent bite the same place every time, so as to block the opponent's offensive as much as possible. Time passed by minute, and Li Wending knew that he could not delay any longer. If he waited until Wang Qiushu's transformation was over, she would be dead. In a flash, he remembered that Wang Qiushu had just evolved her head yesterday. He had not planned to use it at first. After all, although the system said that it had evolved, it did not make it clear to what extent it had evolved. The head is the most important part of a person. Even if it is just a normal impact, it is likely to cause a concussion, but the degree may be relatively mild. Even if Wang Qiushu turned into a zombie, it is still unclear whether the impact would have an impact on her. However, now that it has come to this point, she can only try it, otherwise she really doesn't know how to break the situation. And by the way, she can also see how powerful this iron head skill is. So, Wang Qiushu turned her head suddenly, and then shouted, "Eat my iron head skill." At the same time, she smashed down with a headbutt. Fortunately, she had the advantage of height, so this time she hit the zombie directly in the face. The zombie was obviously stunned when he saw the red light in Wang Qiushu's eyes, and then he was hit hard, and his nose was sunken. The next second, the zombie's hand loosened, and he staggered back 2 or 3 steps. At this time, Wang Qiushu touched her forehead. She had used all her strength just now, but she was worried that the strength was not enough, and it would not work. Unexpectedly, she was fine, but she smashed the other party's nose. It seems that this evolution is quite powerful. She looked at the zombie again. Fortunately, the zombie was a waitress. If the other party was a man, it would be a big loss. You know, although Wang Qiushu has transformed so many times, Li Wending has never hugged her for such a long time. Since the other party is also a woman, he will definitely forgive the other party's rudeness. The waitress zombie's nose collapsed directly at this time, so it still looks quite scary. However, she stared at Wang Qiushu blankly, and soon walked back to the place where she had been hiding before, with no intention of revenge at all. At this time, Wang Qiushu also reacted. The waiter zombie must have thought she was a human, so he attacked her. After discovering that she was also a zombie, he lost interest and wanted to go back to being a sly guy. Wang Qiushu naturally would not let the other party get what he wanted. Although she forgave the other party's rudeness, it did not mean that she let him go. So, she swung the hammer of the earth directly, rushed over and smashed it down at the waiter zombie. With a loud bang, the hammer of the earth fell on the zombie's head. The zombie was immediately half a head shorter. A closer look showed that the neck was smashed into the chest. So now she looks like a zombie without a neck, with the head and body tightly connected. And her head was also smashed down a lot, but even so, she was still not dead. She turned around and looked at Wang Qiushu blankly, as if she didn't understand why this fellow would attack her. Wang Qiushu didn't expect this zombie to be so tough, but the lethality of the hammer of the earth did surprise her. If it was the small hammer from yesterday, it would definitely not have caused such damage. Time was running out. Wang Qiushu didn't think about it anymore. She just leaned back and smashed down with another hammer. The waiter zombie trembled and stretched out his hand, grabbing Wang Qiushu, trying to stop her from smashing. Wang Qiushu didn't even bother to hide, and just gave the other party a hammer. Then she hammered one hammer after another, like playing a whack-a-mole game, until the entire head of the waiter zombie was smashed into the chest cavity, turning it into a headless zombie. And the head had been smashed so many times that it had already bloomed. When she stopped, the waiter zombie fell to the ground with a bang, obviously dead. Wang Qiushu breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, several zombies dressed as waiters suddenly jumped out from all corners. After they came out, they didn't care about Wang Qiushu, but pounced directly on the corpse on the ground and started to bite it. Because there were too many zombies, these zombies formed a full circle, and the center was naturally the dead waiter zombie. However, because of this, a thin male zombie could not squeeze in. Every time he tried to squeeze in, the zombies next to him would make a series of ho-ho sounds, and then he would give up. He walked around outside for several times, but still couldn't get in. Suddenly, he looked at Wang Qiushu. Wang Qiushu was stunned for a moment. She wanted to see if these zombies would fight directly so that she could benefit from it. Unexpectedly, she was targeted instead. Did he think she was easy to bully? However, she then realized that the zombie was not looking at her, but at the hammer of the earth in her hand. She glanced at the hammer of the earth and saw some black liquid dripping down from the hammer head, dripping onto the ground. These were all stained. When she hit the waiter zombie, she immediately remembered the non-stick pan feature of the hammer of the earth. This was indeed very convenient. The dirty things would automatically fall off and there was no need to clean them up. At this time, the male zombie suddenly pounced in front of her, first sticking out his tongue like a dog and licking the black liquid on the ground. After licking it clean, he opened his mouth and waited for the dripping black liquid. Then, he slowly stood up and raised his head until he successfully licked the hammer of the earth. Chapter 20. The dog has no house. The zombie looked like he was licking a popsicle over and over again, unable to stop. Seeing this scene, Li Wending felt a chill and goosebumps all over his body. Wang Qiushu naturally shuddered. As a result, her shudder didn't matter, the hammer of the earth also shuddered. The zombie was indeed a professional, and even so, he still ensured that his tongue didn't leave the hammer. Wang Qiushu was about to doubt whether the zombie's tongue was stuck to the hammer of the earth. In view of the disgusting scene, Wang Qiushu directly swung the hammer of the earth and smashed it down. The zombie was quite alert and quickly retreated, but his tongue was too long, so he didn't have time to retract it before he was hit by the hammer. The whole tongue was hanging outside, and it suddenly looked more like a dog. Wang Qiushu snorted coldly. You don't want to be a zombie, but you want to be a dog. What's the point of such a life? Let me take you on a journey. After that, he stepped forward and hit it again. The hammer of the earth swept out directly, hitting the zombie's face with a bang. The zombie had no time to dodge this time and flew backwards. His tongue, which was hanging out, was broken, and some black liquid spurted out of his mouth and fell into the air. The other zombies paused at the same time, and after taking a look at Wang Qiushu, who was holding the hammer of the earth and was full of murderous intent, they lowered their heads and started biting again. After the zombie was hit by the hammer of the earth, he didn't stop until he hit the wall. Then he supported himself with both hands and tried to stand up. Wang Qiushu had already walked in front of him with the hammer of the earth and swept it out. With a bang, the back of the zombie's head came into close contact with the wall, and his propped up body slipped again. Wang Qiushu then smashed again until he smashed the zombie's head into a paste and stopped. The corpse had been eaten up before, and at this time the other zombies stood behind Wang Qiushu and watched quietly, and at the same time they were ready to move. Wang Qiushu turned around and looked at the group of zombies coldly. She had been on guard against their sneak attacks, but they were so patient, or they didn't dare to come up, because they had seen her strength. The zombies all took a step back. Wang Qiushu snorted coldly and walked out with her long legs. At the same time, she swung the hammer of the earth, and the black liquid flew out directly from the hammer. The whole hammer suddenly became as clean as new, without any dirt. Seeing her movements, the zombies actually took another step back. Wang Qiushu didn't even look at the zombies and walked out quickly. After killing 2 zombies in a row and being attacked at the beginning, the time was almost up. If they were entangled again, it would be very likely to be dangerous. It was not until Wang Qiushu walked away that a few zombies pounced on the body of the male zombie again and began to bite it. Some of them hesitated for a moment, walked towards Wang Qiushu, and followed her. Wang Qiushu frowned. Are these zombies going to attack? So, she quickly sped up. As a result, seeing her walking further and further away, the zombies behind her also sped up. Fortunately, the place where the previous battle took place was not far from the gate. She finally arrived at the sliding door before being caught up by the zombies behind her. She just needed to walk out and close the door, then she would be basically safe. She was not worried that the zombies would come out. If they could come out, they would not have been hiding inside. Wan Qiushu held the hammer of the earth in her right hand and pushed the glass door with her left hand. The door slowly opened and she hurried out. At this time, the zombie walking in front had caught up and was about to follow her out. Wan Qiushu would naturally not let these zombies go out, otherwise it would be troublesome. She didn't want to be like yesterday, where she could only drag them back one by one and kill them slowly. So, she blocked the door with her foot to prevent it from closing. At the same time, she swung a hammer out. The hammer of the earth landed directly on the zombie's face, knocking him back and crashing into the group of zombies behind him. As a result, this collision knocked them all down. Because Wan Qiushu was worried about breaking the glass door, he did not move much. Therefore, the zombie was only hit once and was not injured, which was a pity. However, after seeing that he successfully stopped the zombies from trying to get out, Wan Qiushu still breathed a sigh of relief, closed the door and hurried back. The zombies stood up quickly, but they still looked at Wan Qiushu's figure, and their eyes followed Wan Qiushu's movement. Wan Qiushu was frightened by this look and quickened her pace again. She didn't feel comfortable until she disappeared from their sight. Soon, she returned to the outside of the building. Li Wending's real body also opened the door in time and welcomed her in. As soon as Wan Qiushu entered the door, the red light in her eyes faded directly and the whole person fell to the ground powerlessly. He also felt a wave of fatigue all over his body, but he still tried his best to support Wan Qiushu, and then the two of them lay on the ground together. Wan Qiushu glanced at the hammer of the earth that fell beside him and asked, "How was the performance?" He smiled, "Not bad, killed 2. If I kill normally, I can kill at least 2.5. By the way, how do you feel now? Are you dizzy or something?" Wan Qiushu closed her eyes and felt it carefully, then shook her head. "No, what's wrong?" He told her how the Iron Head skill had just been displayed. After listening to it, Wan Qiushu suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good. In fact, I regretted it a little yesterday, worried that I wasted an opportunity to evolve, but I didn't expect it to come in handy. By the way, how did you kill the other one? Did you hit it with the hammer of the earth? I see that there is no trace of fighting on the hammer, and there is no black liquid or minced meat." He told her about the male zombie. Wan Qiushu was stunned for a few seconds. "Ugh, I wouldn't have asked if I had known. This is too disgusting. Besides, if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know that the hammer of the earth was dirty. I have to wash it carefully later. Maybe it's covered with his saliva. By the way, where is the corpse? Help me hit him a few more times later. I want to whip the corpse." He replied, "I guess when we go back, we won't even see any residue." Wan Qiushu nodded. "This is what it means when a dog licks the boot without a house." He asked in confusion, "What did you say?" Wan Qiushu explained, "Haven't you heard of it? A dog licks the boot without a house." He thought about it, and it was quite appropriate. Chapter 21 Abnormal Zombies. Although she was very tired, Wan Qiushu was still very happy. This is called planting willows by accident, and her unintentional choice actually saved her life. Moreover, the hammer of the earth is an absolute artifact that can help her survive better. However, when she saw Li Wending in deep thought, she couldn't help asking, "What are you thinking about?" He came back to his senses and said, "I'm thinking about something very strange." The strange things he said, of course, refer to the zombies hiding and attacking by surprise. Moreover, later on, they directly split into 2 factions, and their actions were also different. These are completely different from the zombies he killed yesterday, and can even be said to be abnormal. After listening to this, Wan Qiushu immediately said, "I guess we went in at the wrong time. Think about it, they were locked in the restaurant and couldn't get out. How boring it was, so they might have been playing hide and seek when we went in. As for the sneak attack, it was because she thought I was one of them." He nodded and then asked, "Then how to explain the rest?" Wan Qiushu thought for a while. "That's even simpler. Think about it, zombies are all transformed from humans, right? So they must have retained the ability to appreciate humans. Seeing such a beautiful woman like me, it is normal for them to follow me. I have seen many perverts like that before, following me with lustful eyes, but fortunately I was smart and could get rid of them every time. The rest may be fooders, so they didn't react. He couldn't help but slap his forehead. Sure enough, he shouldn't have asked her. It was obvious that her brain couldn't answer these questions. Forget it, let's observe slowly and see. Seeing him like this, Wang Qiushu asked in confusion, "What's wrong? Am I wrong?" He replied expressionlessly, "What do you think?" Wang Qiushu thought for a moment and said, "Then, maybe they have evolved, just like me." He sat up suddenly from the ground. Evolution? Why didn't he think of this? The zombies outside the building had become stronger after eating the corpses of their own kind. Therefore, the zombies in the restaurant may have evolved by eating the corpses of their own kind, or something else. However, they obviously did not evolve to a high degree, otherwise, Wang Qiushu would not have been able to come back. Or, the degree of their evolution was not in strength, but in the brain, so their intelligence was improved. They knew how to ambush and sneak attack, and they also knew how to be afraid. However, according to his previous observations, zombies only eat the corpses of their own kind. Under normal circumstances, they would not fight each other, and naturally there would be no corpses. So what did they eat to evolve? Moreover, it was unknown why those zombies followed Wang Qiushu. At this time, he looked at Wang Qiushu again. Wang Qiushu looked at his eyes and put his hands in front of his chest. "What do you want to do? Don't do anything rash, or I will scream," he said speechlessly. "Who do you think I am?" Wang Qiushu asked suspiciously. "Then what's with that look in your eyes?" He was silent for a few seconds. "Zombies will evolve after eating the corpses of zombies. Do you think you will evolve again if you eat it?" Wang Qiushu stepped back repeatedly. "I tell you, I won't eat those things. If you let me eat them, the worst that can happen is that I will fight you to the death." "Wait, I was able to evolve suddenly yesterday. Could it be that you fed me those corpses?" He waved his hands. "I'm just kidding. And didn't you see those corpses yesterday? They were all eaten by other zombies." Wang Qiushu relaxed then. "Oh, right. Then how can I evolve if I didn't eat them?" He thought about it. "It may have something to do with my special ability. You only need to kill them, and you will automatically absorb the other party's energy. You can evolve when you have enough energy, and you don't need to take the method of eating." In fact, he thought of the system. It seems that the so-called killing zombies is not just a simple increase in experience. Wang Qiushu nodded. "In that case, I can accept it. Anyway, it's not just eating it." At this time, the two people's physical strength had recovered, so Wang Qiushu prepared to transform again. However, before transforming, Wang Qiushu still said, "You can't let me eat those things while I'm unconscious." He said helplessly, "Don't worry, I'm afraid that you will have problems after eating, and then both of us will be finished." Wang Qiushu was relieved and began to transform. When Wang Qiushu returned to the restaurant again, all the zombies came out, but they had divided into two factions. The foodies were farther away and just watched quietly. The perverts looked like they wanted to go forward, but didn't dare to. Since the zombies that appeared just now were all here, Wang Qiushu didn't rush to use the scanner. The more she could save, the better. She looked at both sides, then shook the hammer, and walked towards the foodies. Because the perverts didn't look like they were going to fight, and if they were going to fight, they should have rushed over long ago. After all, she had hit them with the hammer before. Seeing Wang Qiushu walking forward, the pervert faction actually followed her again, but this time they kept a considerable distance. When the foodie faction saw Wang Qiushu approaching, they put their hands in front of their chests with claws, hunched over, and made a series of ho-ho sounds from their mouths, as if they were threatening her and not letting her get close. Wang Qiushu would naturally not be scared, and came close, and swung the hammer of the earth directly. With a bang, the hammer made close contact with the cheek of the zombie in front, and then the zombie flew out directly. The remaining zombies were stunned, but they did not dare to move forward, but took 2 steps back. The pervert faction following behind suddenly rushed out, and began to bite the zombie that fell to the ground. Wang Qiushu saw that this was the rhythm of grabbing the head. If the zombie was killed, wouldn't her experience be gone? So, she walked up directly and smashed one of the zombies with a hammer. The other zombies saw that it was Wang Qiushu, and they all consciously walked to the side. At this time, half of the zombie's face had been bitten off, but it was still struggling to get up. Wang Qiushu smashed the opponent's face with a hammer, and then smashed it again. She didn't stop until she heard the killing prompt sound sent by the system. Seeing Wang Qiushu stop, the pervert faction pounced on him again. The foodie faction was trembling. Wang Qiushu then selected another one of the foodie faction and started to attack. After finishing it again, she quickly left. When she left, the second zombie's body was also eaten by the pervert faction again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. First Encounter with High-Level Zombies. When Wang Qiushu woke up, he saw Li Wending looking thoughtful and couldn't help asking, "Did you find anything?" He said, "The zombies are divided into two factions as mentioned just now. The foodie faction is very afraid of you, and they didn't resist, even if you killed one of them. The pervert faction admires you very much, as if they regard you as their leader, and will even help you kill the foodie faction. Of course, it is also possible that they just want to eat the corpses." Wang Qiushu was puzzled. How could this be? He thought for a while and said, "Maybe your level is higher than theirs, or the strength you showed is strong enough, so you suppressed them. That's why the pervert faction respects you. As for the foodie faction, since they don't submit to you, it means they also have a leader. If that's true, it will be troublesome. I don't know how high the other party's level will be, and whether they will have any special abilities." Wang Qiushu patted the hammer of the earth. "It doesn't matter if he is higher level than me, we still have this. As for his ability, maybe he also has an evolved brain. Besides, if he is unarmed, he will have to wait for my hammer." He also smiled. Well, if one hammer doesn't work, then another one. When Wang Qiushu returned to the restaurant again, she found that something was wrong here. The foodie faction and the pervert faction were on the left and right. The foodie faction was obviously a little excited, as if they were expecting something, while the pervert faction was trembling. Seeing this scene, she couldn't help but feel strange. Could it be that she really guessed right that there was a high-level zombie above the foodie faction? At this time, the door leading from the lobby to the back kitchen was opened, and a zombie dressed as a chef walked out. He was wearing a white chef's uniform and a tall chef's hat on his head. However, what surprised Wang Qiushu the most was that the chef zombie's body did not change much. He still had a face full of flesh, and his chef's uniform did not look loose on him. His skin still looked very elastic, almost like a living person. She glanced at the other zombies again, and recalled the zombies she killed yesterday. They all had one thing in common, that is, because they had not been fed for a long time, their bodies were thin and most of them were skin and bones. At the same time, due to water loss, their skin became wrinkled. Therefore, the body of this chef zombie showed that he was still eating after becoming a zombie, or it was related to his ability. The chef zombie held a thick bone-cutting knife in his left hand and a black and rotten chicken leg in his right hand. He first glanced at Wang Qiushu, and then bit the chicken leg. But after chewing it twice, he spit it out with a puff. Then, he walked to the front of the pervert faction, directly picked up the leg of one of the zombies, and cut it with his hand. The next second, he had an extra leg in his hand. The zombie who lost his leg could not keep his balance, and fell directly to the ground. Black liquid flowed out from the cut. Seeing this scene, all the zombies did not move, and did not even make the movement of wanting to pounce on it. At this time, the foodie faction was even more excited, and their eyes were full of heat when they looked at the chef zombie. The pervert faction was trembling, and they all looked at Wang Qiushu. Wang Qiushu frowned. It seemed that they had encountered a difficult opponent this time. This chef zombie must be of a high level, otherwise it would not have formed such a strong suppression force. As for the pervert faction, she ignored it directly, so she had no time to help them get revenge. At this time, the chef zombie took a bite of the thigh in his hand, and black juice splashed on it. He chewed it twice and swallowed it. At the same time, his head tilted slightly to one side, and he looked at Wan Qiushu with a squint. Wan Qiushu knew why the chef zombie's body could be kept so well. When all the zombies were starving, he directly ate the other party as food. No wonder he didn't lose weight. I just don't know how much he has eaten, what level he has evolved to, and what kind of abilities he has acquired. Moreover, the most difficult thing is that the bone chopping knife in his hand can chop off the zombie's thigh with one stroke, which shows how sharp it is. In addition, the blade is white. If it is chopped on Wan Qiushu, it will be bad. There is no way to take drugs now. Noticing her eyes, the chef zombie proudly raised the bone chopping knife in his hand. Wan Qiushu snorted coldly at this time, and then said, "What's the use of being big? Is yours as long as mine?" After that, she swung the hammer of the earth directly. The handle of the hammer of the earth is much longer than the opponent's bone chopping knife. As the saying goes, an inch longer, an inch stronger. The chef zombie looked at the hammer of the earth, then looked at the bone chopping knife in his hand, and then wanted to say something, but he could only make a ho-ho sound in his throat. Wan Qiushu sneered, "If you can't speak, then don't say it." Then, she rushed over with the hammer of the earth. She had a limited time to transform, and she didn't have time to waste with him. Although she didn't care about his provocation, she would not be able to search the kitchen for food if she didn't get rid of him. So, he had to die. Seeing Wan Qiushu rushing forward, the pervert faction became excited again, while the foodie faction looked at the chef zombie nervously. However, none of them had the intention to intervene, but just watched from the side. The chef zombie looked at Wan Qiushu, who was rushing up, his eyes wide open, and he threw the thigh aside, then held the knife with both hands, and did a forceful splitting of Huishan. However, this knife was too short, far inferior to the hammer of the earth. So, when Wan Qiushu hit the opponent with a hammer, the knife was still a long distance away from her. With a bang, the chef zombie flew out and hit the wall. However, he stood up again soon, as if nothing had happened, but the sound coming out of his mouth was much louder, and he looked very angry. Wan Qiushu frowned. He didn't expect the opponent to be so resistant to blows. Was it because of the fat that reduced the damage? Or did the opponent's evolution strengthen the defense of the whole body? If it was any other zombie, the hammer would at least break the opponent's sternum, which would have a great impact on the movement. The chef zombie chose to attack this time. He held the knife in front of him with both hands, and rushed directly towards Wan Qiushu. It seemed that he also understood the problem of his short attack distance, so he changed the way of attack this time. Although the bone chopping knife is mainly used for chopping, the tip of the knife is also very sharp, and it can make a hole in the body with a poke. Chapter 23 Solution. Wan Qiushu only had clothes as a simple protection, which definitely couldn't block the opponent's knife. Moreover, although her body was stronger than ordinary zombies in all aspects, she certainly didn't have such strong defense as the opponent. Unless she used her head to block it directly. After all, she had specially evolved her head and chose hardness. However, considering that if she couldn't block it, it would be a direct loss, so Wan Qiushu gave up this idea. At this time, the tip of the knife was getting closer and closer, and it was about to pierce her body. Wan Qiushu didn't think about it anymore, and directly swung the hammer with all her strength, aiming at the chef zombie's hand. As long as the knife was knocked out of the opponent's hand, there was nothing to be afraid of. However, due to the lack of grasp of the distance between the two sides and the speed of the chef zombie, the hammer of the earth did not hit the opponent's hand, but hit the knife. The two collided, making a loud dang sound. At the same time, a huge recoil force came from the hammer of the earth, causing her to step back several steps in succession. The bone chopping knife stayed in the chef zombie's hand for 2 or 3 seconds, and finally flew out, and stuck firmly in the wall. Half of the blade had sunk into the wall, which showed how sharp the knife was, and how powerful Wan Qiushu's attack was. If the other party was not a chef, and had often held the knife before, with great wrist strength, the knife would have probably flown out the moment it was hit. The chef zombie felt his hands empty, and when he looked down, the knife was gone. The base of his hands actually cracked, and black liquid flowed out. He put his hands to his mouth and licked them, while looking back for the bone chopping knife. Wan Qiushu looked at the other zombies at this time, and saw that their eyes were blurred, and they were all staring at the chef zombie's hand. It seems that the flesh and blood of high-level zombies are very attractive to low-level zombies, and can even make them no longer afraid of high-level zombies for a short time. The chef zombie seemed to feel their gazes, and turned back, and made a ho-ho sound. The zombies shuddered and returned to their previous state, no longer daring to look at the hands of the chef zombie. Seeing this scene, an idea flashed through Wang Qiushu's mind. If these zombies were used, maybe the chef zombie could be dealt with faster. However, in this way, a new high-level zombie might be raised, or the strength of this group of zombies would be improved, which would be more troublesome. She sighed, and she really had to rely on herself. The chef zombie soon saw the bone-chopping knife, stuck in the wall. He walked over directly, licking his hands, while looking at the knife, as if he was trying to find a way to take it down. Although the knife was not very high, it was not within reach. Now it seems that the chef zombie is not smart enough to move the ladder and climb up, so he has been watching from below. It is rare that the chef zombie's entire back is exposed in front of Wang Qiushu, and he is completely unprepared. Naturally, she would not miss such an opportunity, and walked over with the hammer of the earth. At this time, the chef zombie still stood there without moving, and had no intention of turning back. Coming behind him, Wang Qiushu weighed him up. He was so tall that he was almost as tall as her. This also caused her original plan to whack-a-mole to fail. After all, it would take too much effort to swing it. At this time, the chef zombie suddenly jumped up and stretched out his hand. It seemed that he was almost able to touch the handle of the knife, but it fell back quickly. However, he did not give up and jumped up again. Wang Qiushu saw that if he got the knife, it would be terrible. She swung the earth hammer and smashed it towards his waist and spine. With a bang, the chef zombie was smashed against the wall. As soon as he jumped up, a slight click sound could be heard, and at the same time, a recoil force came from the earth hammer. Wang Qiushu took several steps back before she stood still. Fortunately, her hand was fine. She looked at the chef zombie and saw that he stood up tremblingly, but his upper body tilted to one side, as if his waist was twisted, and the chef's hat fell off, revealing a big bald head. She was relieved immediately. Fortunately, hitting the spine was still useful. Unfortunately, his defense was too high. Otherwise, if the hammer just now could break his spine, it would be much easier. Injured again, the chef zombie turned around and glared at Wang Qiushu. Wang Qiushu would not be polite to him. He directly swung the hammer of the earth and rushed over, ready to imitate his previous force to split ocean and hit the mole. However, the hammer of the earth was halfway down, and was blocked by one of the hands of the chef zombie. Of course, the price was that his knuckles were cracked even more severely. Wang Qiushu hurriedly grasped the hammer handle, and tried to pull the hammer of the earth back, but found that it didn't move at all. I didn't expect him to be so strong. At this time, she raised her leg and directly hit the opponent's elbow joint. At the same time, she also pressed down with the hammer handle. With a click, the chef zombie's elbow joint was actually turned over, obviously broken. The hand that was still holding the hammer of the earth naturally lost its strength and soon let go. Wang Qiushu snorted coldly. No matter how high your body's defense is, your joints cannot violate the laws of the human body, so her joint skills can work. The chef zombie looked at his broken hand blankly, seemingly not understanding what had just happened. Since the hammer of the earth is back, it's time to smash the mole. However, in order to prevent what happened just now from happening again, Wang Qiushu first smashed the chef zombie's other elbow with a hammer, crippling both of his hands, and then started to smash the mole. When the first hammer fell, his head only sank a little bit. However, he still raised his hands to stop Wang Qiushu, but found that his hands were drooping in front of his eyes, and couldn't move at all. Wang Qiushu followed with another hammer, and then kept swinging the hammer until his head was smashed into pieces. The two groups of zombies had now merged into one group, watching trembling from behind. At the same time, they looked like they were about to rush up at any time, and it was obvious that this corpse was very attractive. Killing the chef took too much time, and it was definitely not enough to kill another one, so after killing him, Wang Qiushu prepared to go back. But after thinking about it, she decided to drag the corpse of the chef zombie out, because she couldn't help the enemy. So the zombies could only watch the corpse of the chef go away, and finally they actually pounced on the wall, and began to lick the black liquid that was splashed. Wang Qiushu looked back and couldn't help but feel disgusted. At the same time, it made her understand how strong the attraction of such a high-level corpse is. Chapter 24 Big Harvest. When Wang Qiushu just woke up, she smelled a familiar and disgusting smell. When she slowly opened her eyes, she found a zombie lying next to her, and she was so scared that she crawled back. Then, she found that the zombie was already a corpse, and its head was gone. A stream of black liquid flowed out from the severed head, and the familiar and disgusting smell just now was emitted by it. She patted her chest. Fortunately, it's a corpse. I was almost scared to death. By the way, why did you bring the corpse back again? Li Wending on the side replied, this corpse is the leader of the foodie faction. Its attraction is too strong. I'm afraid that, if I throw it outside, it will attract other zombies. As for letting the zombies in the restaurant eat it, I'm worried that another such powerful one will be raised. I had to move it here first, and wait until the zombies in the restaurant are dealt with, before throwing it out. Wang Qiushu nodded. I didn't expect that there are actually more powerful zombies. By the way, what are his abilities? He thought for a while. It should be full body defense. After all, it is too fat and almost can't break the defense. Moreover, although this zombie has some emotions similar to those of a living person, it does not look very smart, so it must not have any intelligence. Of course, it is also possible that his high defense is entirely because he eats a lot and has a lot of body fat, so he can withstand a beating. Wang Qiushu felt his hands were numb and asked, what happened just now? Why do my hands feel so tired? He guessed, when I killed him just now, I was hit by the recoil several times. Maybe your hands were shaken, but it shouldn't be a big deal. Maybe it's just a little tired. Wang Qiushu couldn't help but kick the corpse, and then asked, what should we do next? Do we have to kill them one by one? He thought for a while, probably, but the remaining ones have already regarded you as the new leader. Even if you want to kill them, they won't resist, so it's just a matter of running a few more times. Wang Qiushu leaned against the wall. Okay then. This zombie is hiding in the kitchen. Generally, there must be treasures in the boss guarding the game, so there must be good things in the kitchen. He nodded, didn't say anything, but read the message just sent by the system. Seeing this, he couldn't help laughing. System, ding, assist Wang Qiushu to successfully kill a level 1 zombie. Experience plus 10. Host experience plus 10. Kill count plus 10. Unexpectedly, the chef zombie was actually level 1, the same level as Wang Qiushu. Fortunately, the zombie's brain was not very good, and its weapon was not good, otherwise it might take a hard fight to kill it. What he didn't expect was that killing a level 1 zombie was equivalent to killing 10 ordinary zombies, which was exactly equal to the experience required to upgrade from 0 to 1. Thinking of the strangeness of the group of zombies just now, he couldn't help but think, if he caught a zombie, broke its limbs, and then fed the corpse to the zombie, would it be possible to directly create a level 1 zombie? If possible, wouldn't he be able to use this bug to keep leveling up? Just killing an ordinary zombie can gain 10 experience points. Where else can you find such a good thing? At that time, you can easily upgrade. And with experience, can't you buy things in the mall at will? Then get a set of magical clothes. Wouldn't it be a great opportunity to walk around in this apocalypse? Just when he was daydreaming, the system suddenly said, the upgrade mode of zombies is different from that of the system. They need to kill a certain number of zombies of the same level as themselves to upgrade. He didn't give up and asked again, why is this corpse so attractive to them? There must be some benefits, right? System, indeed, if they can devour the corpses of zombies higher than their own level, they may obtain some or all of the other party's abilities. He nodded, no wonder they are so crazy. Fortunately I got this corpse back. By the way, according to what you said, wouldn't Wang Qiushu also have such an opportunity? System, when the assistant successfully kills a high-level zombie, it will automatically obtain the other party's abilities. If the other party has more than one ability, it will be randomly selected. He breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Wang Qiushu was not asked to eat the other party's corpse, but to obtain it automatically. This not only saves trouble, but also doesn't disgust people. Besides, even if Wang Qiushu knew that he would become stronger after eating it, he would not agree. Wan Kyushu saw his changing expression, so he pushed him. "Are you okay?" He shook his head. "No, I think I can search the restaurant soon, but if there is really no harvest, then it's all in vain." Wan Kyushu smiled. "It's not in vain. At least we cleared out the zombies inside, and our area will be much safer. So many zombies are raising goo in there, and they raised such a powerful zombie so quickly. If it took longer, I can't imagine it." He replied, "That's right. It's a good thing that we killed it before it grew up. Otherwise we might not be able to do it." Wan Kyushu patted the hammer of the earth. "That's right. Thanks to this artifact." He also looked over. "Yes, if it weren't for it, it's hard to say. After all, the other party has an extremely sharp bone chopping knife." Suddenly, his eyes turned, and the bone chopping knife had been nailed to the wall. That means that the remaining zombies will no longer have such powerful weapons. The system just said that, if zombies want to upgrade, they must kill a certain number of zombies of the same level. There are all level 0 zombies inside, and there must be more than 10 of them. That means that at least one more level 1 zombie can be raised. The newly raised level 1 zombie has no weapons in his hands, and is definitely not a match for Wan Kyushu, who holds a magical weapon like the Hammer of the Earth. Moreover, as long as the operation is done properly, a lot of effort can be saved. He looked at Wan Kyushu. "I suddenly thought of a very convenient way to quickly get rid of the zombies in the restaurant, and you don't have to transform all the time." Wan Kyushu immediately became interested. "What is the way? Tell me quickly." "Transforming is really tiring, and there are so many zombies, which means she has to transform many times, which means she has to kiss many more times. Although she is not very opposed now, it would be best if she can reduce the number of times." He smiled and said, "Borrowing a knife to kill someone? No, it's to kill the corpse." Wan Kyushu asked in confusion. "Borrowing a knife to kill someone? How do you borrow it? And whose knife do you borrow?" He showed a mysterious smile. "Of course, we borrow their knife, let them fight among themselves, and we will be the last one to benefit." Chapter 25. Borrowing a knife to kill. Wan Kyushu still couldn't figure it out, but he didn't explain it anymore. Instead, he found a bucket and put the body upside down in the bucket. As soon as the body was put in, the black liquid flowed faster and soon submerged the bottom of the bucket. Wan Kyushu looked at it with disgust and asked, "What are you doing?" He smiled and said, "I just thought about it. They have been able to live in peace in there for so long. It's hard for them to fight in a short time, so let's add some catalyst to them." Wan Kyushu seemed to understand, but didn't ask again. Anyway, he would definitely tell them later. Not long after, the two of them finished their rest. Wan Kyushu picked up the bucket in his left hand, and swung the hammer in his right hand and walked out. After entering the restaurant, Wan Kyushu found that the wall had been licked clean, without any traces left. And seeing Wan Kyushu coming in, the group of zombies was even more agitated. Of course, the pervert faction and the foodie faction are now together, standing far away. However, their eyes were all looking at the bucket in Wan Kyushu's hand, and they were obviously very interested in what was inside. However, perhaps because of Wan Kyushu's level suppression, or because she had just killed the chef zombie, the group of zombies did not dare to come up. Wan Kyushu saw this scene, and had a better idea in her mind. She put the bucket on the ground, and then put the Hammer of the Earth in. The Hammer of the Earth was wrapped with a piece of clothing. There was no other way. The non-stick feature of the pan meant that it would not stick to these things, so the clothes could only be used instead. When the Hammer of the Earth was lifted, the clothes outside had been dyed black, and black liquid was dripping from it. Suddenly, the group of zombies became more agitated, staring at the clothes, but still did not dare to come up. Wan Kyushu nodded. This was the best. Otherwise, if they all rushed up, her plan would not be easy to implement. Then, she swung the Hammer of the Earth, and walked towards the group of zombies. The group of zombies took 2 steps back, but soon they could not resist the temptation and walked forward. Wan Kyushu walked to the front zombie, then raised the Hammer of the Earth high, and placed it on the zombie's face. The zombie was stunned for a moment, then began to lick unconsciously. At this time, Wan Kyushu smashed down hard, directly cracking the zombie's mouth, and at the same time, a lot of black liquid fell into the zombie's mouth. However, the zombie seemed to not feel any pain at all, but licked his mouth more happily. Wang Qiushu pulled back the hammer, then dipped it in the black liquid, and did the same thing to the second zombie. After a while, she was evenly spread, and the group of zombies stood there licking their mouths. There was only one exception, that was a thin zombie in a suit, who actually dodged directly when the hammer of the earth fell. Wang Qiushu naturally didn't want to let go of such a fish that slipped through the net, and it was obvious that he was not easy to deal with. If he succeeded in upgrading, it would be even more troublesome. However, Li Wending's main body looked at the time, and it was almost at the limit, so he had to control Wang Qiushu to go back first. Besides, even if the zombie successfully upgraded, it would not be Wang Qiushu's opponent without weapons. Wang Qiushu walked out of the restaurant, and she left the bucket inside. Sure enough, as soon as she left, the zombies rushed over and soon started fighting. Pieces of meat and black liquid could be seen flying among the zombies. However, the zombie in the suit was watching from a distance, not at the zombies, but at Wang Qiushu. She shook her head. It was indeed a difficult opponent. It would take some effort to deal with him. Without thinking anymore, she hurried back to the building. Wang Qiushu woke up slowly, but found that the hammer of the earth was wrapped in a black piece of clothing, which was still emitting a foul smell. She asked hurriedly, "What did you do to it?" Li Wending wrapped his hands with a plastic bag. He didn't want to get that thing on him, so he took off the clothes. Then, he swung the hammer of the earth and shook it. It immediately became as smooth as new, without any black liquid. Wang Qiushu's expression looked better then, and she asked again, "Can you tell me now?" She now had a vague idea, but didn't quite understand the specific operations. He leaned against the wall and smiled. "It's very simple actually. When I killed the chef zombie just now, I felt that my ability had been significantly improved. So, I was wondering, could I raise another high-level zombie like this?" Wang Qiushu frowned, then said, "So, you started raising goo? But, what does this have to do with you wrapping the hammer of the earth with that piece of clothing?" He repeated what he had done just now, and then said, "Actually, my original plan was to smash their hands and feet directly, and then leave one with only broken feet, and let him eat the others. In this way, even if he evolves, he can't run away, and I can save a lot of effort. However, that would be too troublesome, and would take a lot of time. It might even be impossible to complete it in one go, and in that case, it would disrupt my plan. After all, the system said that a certain number of people had to be killed. What if one of them killed 7 and one killed 8, and neither of them could upgrade? Then all their work would be in vain." Wang Qiushu nodded. "Is this what you call killing someone with a borrowed knife? Where's the knife?" He pointed to the black clothes in the distance. "That's the knife. The previous plan didn't work, so I thought of another one, which is to make them injured, and they will naturally fight. However, considering that they have always lived in peace, I use the black liquid of the chef zombie. As long as a little bit of it is on their wounds, they will definitely be attacked by other zombies. Moreover, when I left, they were already fighting." Wang Qiushu still didn't understand. Since they started fighting directly, wouldn't the situation of not being able to upgrade occur as you said just now? He sighed. "It shouldn't. When I left, there was a zombie who was very smart and was not injured. Therefore, he has a great chance of becoming the final winner. Moreover, with his IQ, I believe he will definitely upgrade. However, that means that we will face a very difficult opponent later." Wang Qiushu breathed a sigh of relief. No matter how difficult it is, it's just one zombie, which is better than killing a dozen. In this way, we only need to get rid of him, and then we can go in and search for things. He nodded. "Well, that group of zombies should be all that's left in the restaurant. I believe there are no more hiding." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.